Out of the gates and ready to go. OutKick 360 is underway from 6th and Peabody. The Friday edition is here. The edition where Joe Thomas is going after Jeff Saturday and the Indianapolis Colts. We'll get into that coming up. The top 10 games of the college football weekend. Withrow's bringing that. He's found them.
Oh, I found them all right.
We've got them counting down all the way to Oxford. That's my prediction. All the way to Oxford, 10 to Oxford. Moneyline upsets in the NFL. Had 4 options. I went with 3. Paul's got some parlays and props and other things that we can play this weekend, and a lot to come over the course of the next 3 hours. You can join us at OutKick 360. Tim Graham will also join us in hour number 2. We'll talk Buffalo Bills headlines. Josh Allen officially questionable for Sunday's game against the Vikings. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Can we get right into the Joe Thomas rant on Jeff Saturday?
Sure.
Watched it. Stories up at OutKick.com where I saw the story. I think it's Joe Thomas is an extremely bright guy. And his argument is very well laid out, with it being disrespectful that Jeff Saturday has been hired as what he claimed a drinking buddy of Jim Irsay. That's his requirement for the job. He's Jim Irsay's drinking buddy. He got hired as a head coach. It is a slap in the face. It's disrespectful to other NFL head coaches or assistant coaches that want a head coaching job, right? All fair. All fair. I think that he's on to something with that. I also don't want to...
He's more than a drinking buddy.
Yeah, I think that's a mischaracterization.
That is a stretch.
I would object to that.
He was
part.
a paid consultant of the organization.
Yeah.
He was more than that.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Beloved alumni.
No real NFL coaching, college coaching
All fair.
experience. That's what he's really getting at more than anything else, right? Okay, fair. Let's not also act like it's 1969 and we're putting someone on the moon as an NFL head coach, because he goes into that territory. Let me tell you about my head coaches that never saw their families and did this night. And I mean, come on. I understand it's time-consuming. Well, he may be. But you want to know what's going to be a slap in the face to NFL head coaches in the community?
I know where you're going.
Jeff Saturday winning. If he comes in and wins in game 1, buckle up the rest of the NFL, because you suck. And you should get a pay cut. Because a dude off the street did better than Frank Reich, who worked his way up through the system to become a head coach. That devalues your job.
And he'll do better.
It truly does.
Against the guy they tried to hire in Josh McDaniels.
So I want to see a lot of backtracking from Joe Thomas and others. If Jeff Saturday wins with this group at all, come back and say, hey, I was wrong. Maybe it's not that difficult of a job if you have a decent staff, or if you understand the game, or by all means, if you understand people. Because Jeff Saturday is brought in to be a psychiatrist. He's not brought in to bring in a new scheme or do any of that. He is a manager of people. Saturday laid it out well. I'm rooting for Saturday now, quite honestly. But he laid it out well where he said, if you're going to doubt my head coaching ability, fine. I've never done it. I may suck. He also said, do not doubt my ability to lead men. I can do it. I've done it over the course of my career. I've done it in other avenues. I can do it here. I'm rooting for the guy.
I think the Colts are going to win 2 games the rest of the season. I mean, I don't think they're going 0-8, but I don't think they're going to win them because of Jeff Saturday per se. And I do want to see how this first one goes. They've got a big opportunity here because Vegas is a bad team itself, and now a whole bunch of the people that make them good when they're good are out.
I don't think it's coincidence that Shaquille Leonard, formerly Darius Leonard, was playing, and now all of a sudden he has a setback when things get tough and there's a coaching change, and all of a sudden there's an ankle and back issue again. Let's throw that in there. They're down Jelani Woods, who was legitimately on the injury report. Deion Jackson is out of this game with a knee. He's the 3rd-string back. The good news is Jonathan Taylor's coming back. Matt Ryan is back. He's officially the backup on Sunday for Ellinger. Point being, I don't know what to expect with this because it's such a jarring move. and you're bringing in someone from the outside who, in most cases, if you're bringing in someone who the players don't know, they're brought in February and March in a coaching search, and now it's in the middle of the season when it is apparent that you're expected to lose. Can we throw that out there? Like,
yeah,
everyone's assumption is this is a move to tank without saying it. And I don't think Jeff Saturday's on board with that. I'm not saying I believe Jim Irsay is trying to do that. But that's the perception, and you guys know my rule. Perception's reality. They were bad with Frank Reich. I think they'll be bad with Jeff Saturday, and I don't think it's Saturday's fault. I just think they made the decision to bring Frank Reich back in the offseason, which I was opposed to. And I also have a rule where I think coaches and GMs make moves in the offseason based on their job security. They did not do enough in the front office for job security with Frank Reich in multiple areas.
They've got some tough games for sure. Next week they play the Eagles. I mean, that's as hard as it gets.
That's part of the why I think Jalen Hurts puts on a show.
But they're hosting the Raiders, who have some major troubles of their own now.
No. They're on the road this week in Vegas.
At the Raiders. In 2 weeks, they host the Steelers on Monday Night Football. The Steelers stink. And they finish the season hosting the Texans, who are the worst team in football right now. They've got some opportunities to win some games. I don't think winning those games will absolutely vindicate the Jeff Saturday move by any means. I just think if you put a competitive team on the field against those teams, you have a chance to beat the Steelers and the Texans and even Vegas this weekend. The one thing that I've read, and I didn't go look specifically at the stats, Jonathan Taylor has not been good when he's been playing hurt or coming off injury. And that's what I was thinking was their best chance this week, was to go super simple and just run Jonathan Taylor. But Jonathan Taylor's coming off an injury, and his history coming off an injury or playing hurt, it's not been good.
Well, and also keep in mind, Chad, it's not just Saturday. They're bringing in a brand new play caller this week. They have multiple issues with their offensive line, which Saturday was – he told the press, and by the way, I believe him. He told the press that when he spoke to Irsay prior to Sunday, it was about the issues on the Colts offensive line, which is why he was hired to be a consultant for the team. So Irsay had called him, which is true. They had talked prior, which is what I said on Monday or Tuesday. I said they talked on Saturday. They talked about the offensive line while they were in Foxborough or Providence, wherever they stayed. And Irsay was asking his opinion on, like, tell me what's going on. And he told the press in Indy, he's like, I didn't have time to watch their game in full last week, so I could not speak to the 9 sacks or whatever with the Patriots because I was on set. I had different games. ESPN had me doing this. And so he told Irsay, he goes, I'll watch it and get back to you. And before he got back to him, Irsay was calling him again about being the interim head coach. That's the story that he's putting out there. And again, I have no reason not to trust what he's saying. It is just so bizarre in this day and age where you just don't elevate someone with the staff just to get through the season. This is more than that. And that's why I believe it's more about gathering intel. And if you win enough games that you can get Irsay's attention, maybe you keep your job. Maybe you go to the front office. There's more to this than just finish the season.
Chad, I'll meet you halfway. I mean, I think it's oversold as rocket science. But I do think it's a long process, that there's a lot that goes into it. I rooted for Tony Dungy over Bill Belichick because Tony Dungy believed in, hey, take your kids to school in the morning and go see their football games on Friday night, whereas Belichick always put on the air, and his coaches always, when they left there, talked about sleeping in their offices and all of that. And I think that can be totally overdone, absolutely. But it is a complex system in the big picture that needs a lot of time and marination and all of that because there's so many moving parts. And I said from the start, that's where my concern is for Saturday with all the moving parts, just getting to know that many people and a playbook. And you can only simplify to such a degree. So I'd meet this thing in the middle. I think Joe Thomas is overstating on one end, and the expectation for Jeff Saturday might be too little on the other end.
2 things. One, if Jeff Saturday is actually trying to win and the organization is trying to win, let me back up. The best thing for the Colts is to lose every game from here on out. That's the best thing for their organization.
In terms of getting a quarterback,
they should tank. They don't have a quarterback. They need one. If Jeff Saturday is really trying to win and the organization is backing him on that stance, then he's not being mandated to start Sam Ehlinger. They're starting Sam Ehlinger. They're trying to lose. So he is set up to fail. Because even with Matt Ryan's problems, Matt Ryan, Nick Foles, better options than Sam Ehlinger.
That is
he
not
can
the
move off Ehlinger
what,
soon, though.
The reports out of Indy are that Jeff Saturday has told the press that the quarterback job is not a close competition, meaning I think we see Matt Ryan this week.
If it's going bad, or next week.
If that's the case,
I don't think he takes this. I don't think he leaves what he's doing to go lose and be a joke.
Yeah, if we see him, then he's legitimately being given a chance to win.
There's no way Jeff Saturday leaves to be a joke for Jim Irsay, to be a pawn in whatever the cockamamie idea hit his brain on Sunday.
Which is a financial sacrifice because Irsay decided.
He's a great friend with Bill Polian, too, and Bill Polian backs Jim Irsay. But
then why is Ehlinger starting?
Because Jim Irsay mandated it.
But Jim
Irsay at the presser
that's my point.
At the presser this week that I listened to in full, Jim Irsay was asked about it, and he was very deliberate in his answer. He said that he's not opposed to Matt Ryan playing again.
It's also too much of a change to come in the first day and change the quarterback.
What are we believing from Jim Irsay and what are we not? Because I said that
he also said
Chris Ballard is a winner and isn't going anywhere.
Well, last week he said that Reich wasn't going anywhere.
And both of you guys said he's gone. At the end of the
season,
he's
gone
probably
before kickoff of the season, Jack.
Well, last week he said that Reich was out.
I don't believe Irsay when he says that. If Sam Ehlinger is starting, the only reason is because Jim Irsay is mandating it.
It's only one game. I think Saturday.
So does he get a series and screw up?
I think Saturday
says,
comes in
give me Matt Ryan?
And talks him out of that. Hey, you're into Ehlinger, but I'm coming here to give myself the best chance to win. And if I think it's Ryan, I'm going to go to Ryan.
Paul, why is he into Ehlinger? He wants to lose.
Well,
they want the highest possible draft pick for a quarterback.
Chad.
So it's this cyclical thing of what's actually going on.
If you want to lose, keep Matt Ryan back there.
He's a statue.
They were doing
who's getting
just
killed.
fine
They were
losing.
doing just as badly with Ryan as they're doing with Ehlinger.
I disagree. They were doing worse.
Just fine.
Matt Ryan's not. What was it? 26-3 against the Patriots.
Now, so Ehlinger, who's mobile, was sacked 9 times.
Imagine
now tell me what Matt Ryan would have done.
Matt Ryan's probably throwing 5 of those away and getting rid of it.
And
I'm telling you, Nick
probably
Foles is a better option than both of them.
And
I'm not just talking about Matt Ryan.
And Nick Foles is the 3rd-string quarterback this week. That's why I'm telling you, there's no mandate that Matt Ryan can't play. And listen to Jeff Saturday right here. This is Jeff Saturday on Wednesday after the presser already happens. This is his daily 15-minute chat with reporters before, or this is actually right after practice. Vrabel here does it before. This is right after practice. And this is not a guy who is taking this gig to be the butt of the joke. And I'll preface this. This is Greg Doyle, who you will hear first, who is challenging him on the idea that all of this came together in 12 hours.
Dave, this all came together in about 12 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say this other than I find that very hard to believe. And I'm wondering, you were in town that week.
Yeah.
This didn't come up? You're
No.
advising her say.
Look at me. Did not come up.
Okay.
Not once.
Okay.
Yep.
So
I mean, I speak, I'm going to tell you how it is, right? Like, you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to tell you straight up. Not once. My first call was Irsay during the game Sunday.
Let's walk through that. So you were stunned, you said.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't take this job, and you explained a little bit on Sunday night or Monday night why you did.
Yeah.
Why are you here? Why take the job?
Because I care. Right, and I told the guys this morning, I care about the players, I care about their families. I've sat in their seat, man. This sucks, right? I like Frank. I've talked to Frank. We've texted. I love Frank, man. I was working with Frank, right? So I'm working with him every week, talking to him. I consider Frank a friend, and I love him. I think he is a heck of a football coach. I got no control over how that. So I understand from their perspective. I've sat in that seat. They love Frank, man. That's their coach. I mean, they played for this dude. So I don't minimize that at all. I care about the staff and their families. These guys work hard. They sacrifice for their families. They sacrifice time, energy, and effort. Like, I know equipment room, man. I know media relations. I know training room. Like, you guys act like these are my people, bro. Like, my adult life was forged here, right? Like, my wife and I had we raised our kids here. Like, these people matter to me. This organization matters to me, right? The people in the community matter to me. I mean, everybody thinks this is like flippant. This is not. Like, I care whatever I can do. And when he said, hey, can you help me? Absolutely, I'll help. If somebody called and said, hey, this is an opportunity to say, for the people who are in this room and in this building, would you do it? Absolutely, I'm going to do it, right? And I had to make sure my wife was on board. She and I talked about it, prayed about it. I called him back and I said, let's do it, right? And that was it. Just for that was at 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, Irsay carries different hours than me, right? He's a lot later. But it was like 1 or something where you consider it. And I said, hey, my wife and I, and then he and Chris talked and had a conversation and did whatever. But I had no idea how it was going to flow through. Just didn't know. And it was a whirlwind, man. And is what it is now. I'm here and trying to beat Las Vegas. I mean, that's the focus at this point.
And every video element, shot, whatever they're allowed to shoot at the Colts practice, it's Saturday and Matt Ryan chatting about elements of practice and what they're about to do. So I don't think he's coming in to just
drop 8,
kick the ball off and whatever.
I wish Matt Ryan was starting.
I think he's starting next week.
If he's sitting there talking with Matt Ryan the whole time, Matt Ryan should be starting. I believe with all of my heart that Sam Ehlinger is not an NFL quarterback, and he is not their best option to win.
No.
If you start Sam Ehlinger, the message you are sending me is, let's lose out and get a high draft pick. Matt Ryan's not very good this year. Granted, terrible. I think Matt Ryan or Nick Foles gives the Colts a better chance at victory. I also think, again, this is mixed messages. I understand how it's confusing. I think Jim Irsay truly wants Jeff Saturday to be the head coach.
Irsay's been
long term
changing his mind.
So it's a mixed thing here going on.
It's a mixed thing, but he's been changing his mind at an alarmingly fast rate. So he can change it on quarterback, and Saturday can talk him out of stuff.
I don't know how you don't watch that game on Sunday and not think that quarterback with Ehlinger is part of the problem.
Well, the problem is Frank Reich.
He's the main problem.
I've been standing on this soapbox. He refused to go through the run game when it is clear their best option. The media, after a 2,000-yard season from Derrick Henry, refused to talk about him for MVP. Week 10, week 11 of last year. Oh, Jonathan Taylor's the best running back in football. Derrick Henry's out. This guy's the most valuable player in the league. We're going to start spinning this. That never would have happened with Henry a year prior. They love the Colts. They built this whole idea that it was Jonathan Taylor's team. And it's not. They never built their system around the run game, and that is why he's fired. And I think Saturday's coming in to do that. I don't think now Ehlinger, Matt Ryan, Foles, it's about Jonathan Taylor and their backfield now. Zach Moss is there. They traded Naheem Hines in response to, and other than the picks they got in return, Moss. I think it's more about the run and extensions of the run through a short passing game, which will keep them in games. But then you have front runners like Leonard, who have back surgery right before the start of the season, and then bow out and tap out whenever it's time to, actually get on board with a new interim head coach from the outside.
Chad, I want to tell you about what's going to be your favorite TV show in 2 years.
Okay.
And the downfall of Twitter.
Hard Knocks?
Yeah, no.
Hard Knocks in season Colts 2 years from now on Saturday.
I don't know if you've watched it yet, the dropout about the woman.
I'm aware of it, but I've not watched it.
It's really good. You're watching Dope Sick now.
Theranos.
So Theranos is a fascinating story. What Elon Musk is doing, it's the woman who said with a drop of blood she was going to be able to tell you everything that's wrong with her.
It sounds like Cthulhu.
And then it was absolutely preposterous.
Both HBO had a great documentary, and Cthulhu with True Detective also on HBO. But I've seen the documentary, not the dramatic series about it.
The dramatic series is also excellent, but we all read constantly, right? So I've been reading all of this Twitter stuff about Elon Musk and just his takeover. And for such a successful businessman who's made so much money, to walk in there and fire half the staff, then try to rehire half of the people he fired because he realized, oops, that was a mistake. I can't really make this thing work.
Well, but they can also. He's going to get them working for less.
No, but a lot of these people are saying, like, Twitter is going to start going on the fritz like it used to in the old days. Remember the whale? They called it, what is it, a white whale or whatever?
Yeah.
That's going to start happening again, they say, and this verification process. There are all kinds of issues going on over there. And I'm reading about it. I was just reading about it, eating a taco bowl on the way over there, and I stumbled across this paragraph, and I thought this ties in beautifully to a conversation we had recently about names. Chad, we've talked since the beginning of our time together about your dislike of your first name.
Yeah, I don't like my first name.
Hutton talked recently about how he was named something else for the first few
Matthew.
days of his life. This is from a New York Times article I was reading. At times, Mr. Musk was spotted with his 2-year-old son, XAEA12, David's going to pronounce that for us in a second, at Twitter's office as he greeted employees. This is the next best name ever to Prince's when he went to the artist formerly known as Prince. And apparently Davey somehow knows how to pronounce this.
Yeah, it's XAEA12.
And why do you know this?
I drink and I know things.
Okay.
Well, he also
A12.
he had Joe Rogan was with Elon Musk, and he asked Elon to like walk him through how to pronounce his kid's name, and so he did.
I mean, this is the right name for a kid that you're intending to die on Mars as part of the colonization.
He's already told people if you go to Mars, you're dying. Life
Well,
expectancy much lower.
So
I mean,
there's the
fair
name.
enough.
Did we put that on screen for people to see what it looks
Yeah.
like? There's what it looks like.
That's a weird name.
Is that a Greek symbol?
He just goes by X.
It's Elvin. I'm not joking.
The symbol is called the Elvin?
I mean, what do you do at school when you go in
How do
and
you
you're
sign
trying
your
to
paper?
write that
X.
name down?
I love the signature.
I mean,
X.
you,
just go X?
you sign that on your first paper,
Well, the
and the
truth
teacher's
is-
like, stop fooling
No,
around.
the truth is, you're
Take
Elon
this
Musk's
seriously.
son. You sign your name however you want to sign your name.
Paul,
you sign
do
your
you-
name with $1 million bill if you want to.
Paul, do you like Ed Sheeran?
I like him all right.
His kid's name is Lyra Antarctica.
At least those are
Do you
English
like
words.
Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry? Because they have a child named Daisy Dove.
Well, these are English
Do you
words.
like Cameron Diaz?
Yeah, I
do.
like her quite a bit.
Her child's name is Radix with an X at the end.
But you see how these are all English language
Oh, no,
names.
not totally. Nick Cage and Alice Kim have a
This
daughter
tracks.
or a child named Kal-El. Isn't that Superman?
Kal-El is Superman.
It's Kal-hyphen-El.
I'm against numbers and names and Greek letters. Those are for fraternity.
I feel like if Josh Dobbs has a child, it'll be the pi. It'll be
Chad's
3.1.
son.
What fraternity? You
whatever
should
it is.
name, if you guys had
Phi
another
Psi.
kid, you should name him after the fraternity that gave you that bogus award.
Sigma.
Yeah.
I just go Sigma.
The Sigma, but not
That's actually
spelling it
kind
out.
of a Sigma Withrow is a pretty.
What's the
badass
symbol for
name.
Sigma?
I like that.
That's an alpha name. Alpha Withrow. How about that? We're gonna go through the Greek alphabet. No betas.
Raising a Greek in the Withrow household.
Sigma would work.
I thought you were more Scandinavian family, but
Can you
you
imagine
want to turn into
if there
Greek.
was a-
Lars.
Can you imagine if there was a Beta Withrow?
Anders.
Beta Withrow.
Oh, we'd have a field day.
I'm
with
so
that.
disgusted with my lone son that I named him Beta.
Call him
Francis
Beta.
von Smitto would come back from the grave.
I don't like the way
to
this
kill
kid
you.
came into the earth, so I'm going to name him Beta.
Chad's 5th or 6th, 7th removed great grandfather. What is it?
Francois von Schmitto, but there's like 8 middle names in between that.
Yes.
And I think he's the 8th.
26 wives.
Were any of those
Descendant
names
the
numbers?
Prussian throne.
26
Numbers
wives?
and Greek symbols?
Not 26, more like
27.
7. But his final
No, it was more than that.
his final bride, he was 80, she was 19 when they wed.
Yes,
The logical split.
which
in
was
age.
Chad's 6th removed
Did
grandmother.
they bear children?
My ancestor, Francois von Schmitto, was once captured, I think in the War of 1812.
Yes.
And
No,
just-
What was his
yeah,
prayer?
it was the Battle of New
Basically
Orleans.
declared that he was not capturable because of his rights to the Prussian throne. He just immediately declared to the conquering
And-
army that
And what was the
Imagine.
prayer?
you can't take me.
What was the prayer that he offered going into battle?
Oh, man. God be with us, but
And
if you're not with us, then stand aside and let hell reign, basically, was the
No, it
prayer.
was like,
Good prayer.
stand aside and watch the damnedest fight you've ever seen.
Watch the damnedest fight you've ever seen, yes. That was his prayer for Andrew Jackson in the Battle of New Orleans. He said the prayer.
And
I'm a
and
descendant of this man
I bring
who
this
I
up-
can tell you did not have beta anywhere
And
in
here's
his name.
here's
Yes,
what the prayers
exactly.
have been reduced to through all these generations. The prayers have been reduced to God. Please schedule my daughter's basketball game at a different time than the Vols.
Hey,
Oh, I'm
different time,
thinking-
different era.
or
He
Vols,
appreciates this.
Please be up 2 scores when I leave in the third quarter to go coach my daughter's 8-year-old basketball game.
Yeah, Von
That's my
Schmidt's
prayer now.
not proud.
Coming up, we've got the top 10 college football games of the weekend on OutKick 360.
Was there a moment that you always look back to from Black Hawk Down and you said to yourself in that moment, I am not making it out. Like, I will not survive today because of this one thing?
It was kind of the entire day, the entire night. There was a portion of time, I think, in the middle of the night where things kind of calmed down and it wasn't as chaotic, and we were just kind of sitting waiting for guys in helicopters to get extricated and things like that. And it wasn't until the sun started to kind of peak back up where you're like, oh, this is going to turn back on again. But for the initial assault and 2 or 3 times that I went out into the city, it was just, I don't think any of us are going to make it out alive. And so every time we would kind of get back and be secure and all right, get more ammo, and we're going back out to try and find this other crash site. And I didn't think that it was happening for any of us. I kind of came to peace. I was just telling my son about this actually the other day, but I kind of came to peace with, okay, if I get hit in the chest, like I've got a plate carrier, hopefully that stops it. If I get hit in the arms or the legs, chances are I'll live. And if I get hit anywhere else, it's probably going to be pretty quick and traumatic and over. So I hope that I remember thinking specifically in the middle of the afternoon, I hope that I can just like look at the blue sky and have something peaceful to look at, not this whole, what I'm looking at in front of me. I hope that's not my last moments. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace.
This one, I picked it because the caption's just frankly funny. And it's also geotagged your mom's house. It says balls deep, as we used to say, long before it was a popular term. The meaning to us referred to how far into bad guy territory we were. These are a few picks from that day, and also a pic of us getting ready to go. We lost a mate on this day, Andy Fernandez. Although he was brand new to the unit, he had just been assigned. He left his mark and will forever be etched into historic endeavors. R.I.P. Andy. So I know you probably can't get into specifics. The caption's hilarious, the top half of it anyways. But
Yeah.
Are you able to say anything about what this Instagram post is in relation to?
That was post gunfight. I think it's been talked about in some book, someplace. So I don't read any military history stuff. So I don't know. People will send me things sometimes where like, oh, this must be from this book that so-and-so wrote about. I don't know. It was kind of post gunfight. We were outnumbered and surrounded by, 130, 150 dudes, and had, at least beat everybody back enough that, that was kind of that moment when that picture was taken. So we didn't necessarily know at the time, like it was any gunfight is a scary moment, and, you don't really necessarily know the outcome. But it was almost, for me and where I was, it was almost a fun gunfight. Like they couldn't hit me where I was, and they couldn't hit my group where we were based on the terrain. And so we were almost kind of laughing, running back and forth, shooting at these guys over here, go grab some more ammo, go shoot at these guys over here. And so it wasn't, a terrifying moment. It turned into not to be a terrifying moment. But then we started hearing radio calls, hey, we got some people hit and injured, and okay, well, now this is a serious thing. It's not a funny thing anymore. And if anything, the post kind of reflects that, where,
Right.
Initially, hey, haha, fun. This was, a good day. And then, somebody paid the ultimate price that day. And but that's about as much as I can say.
From 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us. We are getting you ready for the weekend on this Friday edition. And it is time for Chad Withrow's top 10 games of the college football weekend.
I love how we're doing it now.
More reasons to watch college football? It's time to bang some hats. Here's Chad Withrow's must-see games this weekend.
Colin Warner with excellent production that I just stepped all over. My bad there.
You love how we're doing it right
Yeah,
now.
you were talking about that.
I looked up and I saw the video of what we're going to show for those watching, and I see that we're going to unveil one after the other. I'm thinking, man, this is awesome.
To Colin's credit here, which he doesn't know, like we had elements for everything we used to do, and then we were trained not to have it because we just didn't have it, even though I complained about
To
it.
make it clear.
And now we have it, and
We
we're
didn't
trained
have
not
it
to
because
have
we
it.
didn't have it.
Right. But now we have
To
it.
be
We are a hamster on a wheel.
Now
and
with
we
the
do as
season
we're told.
nearly over.
We have it
And
with
our
Colin Warner.
brains, my frontal lobe is programmed to do what we've
Colin,
been doing recently. So
can
when
you
there's something
reset
new
this?
in there, I get it going again.
So we're going to reset this
All right, we're
as we
start
come
over?
back. Yeah, just to train Chad that
In
every
3?
Friday we have his top 10 games of the college football weekend.
Need more reasons to watch college football? It's time to bang some hats. Here's Chad Withrow's must-see games this weekend.
Let me tell you where they're going to bang some hats. That's in Iowa City. My guy Matty Ice knows about banging hats in Iowa City. That's what they do. That's all they do. They're going to line up 10
Got
across the
nothing
line.
else to do.
They're going to have one receiver out wide, and they're going to just ram helmets and bang hats into each other for 60 minutes of this Wisconsin-Iowa game. That's what both programs want to do.
You know why they do it?
Quite frankly, it's all they can
Nothing
do right
else
now.
For a
to do.
72-pound Brahma Bull trophy, the Heartland Trophy at stake here.
That's an amazing trophy. And it's going to be well earned because it's going to be a lot of hat banging going on in this one. Iowa hosting Wisconsin. Wisconsin, a 1.5-point favorite. Jim Leonard, I wrote about this for OutKick. I think they should take the interim tag off of him. He should be the full-time head coach at Wisconsin. This would be a big step in getting there. But guys, if Iowa wins, with all of the jokes, everything we've said about that offense by Brian Ferentz, who's been terrible, nepotism at its worst, the coach's son, can't get anything done, they could win the Big Ten West. They could win the Big Ten West for this win.
15th best rushing offense
Or be on their way.
against the 4th best rushing defense of Iowa.
Why did the spread flip? Because it was Iowa -1 on Sunday. And it's now
That's a good
Wisconsin -1.5.
I don't know. Maybe Vegas is just bored with this game.
The money.
Let's just flip it up. Let's see what happens.
Because Iowa's involved in it.
Yeah.
Number 9, Maryland at Penn State. Penn State ranked 14th, 10-point favorite.
Is this a rivalry?
2:30 p.m. Central Time on Fox. It should be.
It can't be.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
not.
the
It's not.
two of the 3 Northeastern Big Ten teams.
But you have 2 coaches. So Loxley and
history.
Penn State and James Franklin were together. They know each other well. Penn State's overall record in this rivalry, though, quote-unquote rivalry, which both coaches are downplaying, 41-3-1 is the record in the series for Penn State. But last year, they broke the 3-game losing streak to Maryland with a win. So who do you take?
So, Maryland, it's going to be a windy game, so keep that in mind. Weather's going to be an issue in a number of games this weekend. Windy game, but Penn State's pass defense, which has been very good, has not really been tested. Twice, they played good passing offenses. Ohio State and Purdue, each team went over 350 yards passing. Talia Tagovailoa, the quarterback for Maryland. They'll spread it out. They'll throw it around. Interesting game between Maryland and Penn State.
I mean, Penn State's 0-2 against top 3 teams and undefeated against everybody else. I'm really hard on them. I don't like them, but given that, I should probably like them a little bit more.
Good news for them is Maryland is not undefeated. So that holds
Yeah,
true.
and they're not in the top 3.
They should be fine. Game number 8, Louisville at number 10, Clemson. Clemson a 7-point favorite. 4 weeks ago, I would have said this is not going to be in the top 20 of this week's schedule. Louisville, though, has started to put it together. They got the 6 second-half turnovers against Wake Forest in a win. They blow out a really good James Madison team, 34-10. They're forcing turnovers.
They also beat Pitt in there.
Clemson turned it over 6 times in their last 2 ball games. Can Louisville force enough turnovers to get the big win over Clemson? I think it's a very close game. 2:30 Central Time on ESPN.
So Clemson has won, 37 straight games at home.
That sounds right.
It's a great feat. Louisville, they've played close recently in this series, and 38 straight games is currently the streak for Clemson. I think the spread's perfect. I would stay away from it. I think it's a very tight game. 4 of Louisville's losses to Clemson have come by a touchdown or less. Last year it was 30-24. Clemson has, they're very talented. I don't know if they really know who their quarterback is.
Yep.
Malik Cunningham is.
They know who their quarterback is at Louisville, but he's up and down. Malik Cunningham.
But he's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
He's accounted for 119 touchdowns. That ties with Lamar Jackson at Louisville. I have no idea who wins this game, honestly. I would take Clemson money line, but it's not going to win you very much.
I'm not going to touch it.
I don't care anymore.
I think it's perfect.
Clemson's out, and that's all I needed.
Clemson's out, but we've seen crazier things.
Let me preview.
They're already in the ACC championship.
We'll
game.
probably do this over the next segment too, but let me preview a future ACC game that shows that maybe they're not all out, because there's another one-loss team in the ACC that no one is talking about right now who's also got a big game this weekend. Game number 7. Let's go to the SEC. Georgia is a 16-point favorite on the road at Mississippi State. This game is at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Mississippi State looked like they were going to roll against Cadillac Williams and Auburn last week. They scored the first 17 points of the game. They have to hold on for dear life. They hit a field goal late to tie it. They get another field goal opportunity to win it in regulation. They miss that one. They go to overtime and win it against Auburn. Mississippi State going for an undefeated season at Davis-Wade Stadium in Starkville. Very different challenge with the Bulldogs coming to town. Guys, I like Georgia huge in this game.
Georgia has outscored opponents 208-41 in the first half this season. The Bulldogs have outscored opponents 76-14 in the first quarter this season. This comes down to the start. Who starts fast? And Mississippi State's at home. If they start fast, they cover. If not, I'm with you, Chad. And I know I will roll with you because you rolled with me on Bama last week. So I've got you here. I'll back you with my mind.
Leach is 0-4 against Bama and Georgia, which is not a surprise, but he's going to be 0-5.
It will take
I'm not talking about winning. I'm talking about coverage.
Yeah, Mississippi State knocking them off balance early. It's going to take an early 7-0 Mississippi State lead.
Does Stetson
in the
Bennett,
Battle of the Bulldogs?
Does Stetson Bennett still have a path to the Heisman?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good Heisman year.
So Tennessee needs style points. Stetson Bennett needs style points this week.
By the way, Tennessee's not going to appear on this list in the top 10. Those style points could take a hit if the forecast holds up. May not be that bad, but it's a 90% chance of rain in 38 to 45 degree temps in Knoxville tomorrow for the majority of that game. So that could affect Hendon Hooker's stat line.
So number 6, Chad, and then we will pause and come back with your top 5.
Kansas State at Baylor. Big 12 has had a really good year. Lots of compelling games, close shootouts throughout the season. I think this could be another one. Kansas State going on the road to Waco. Baylor, a 2.5-point favorite, 7 p.m. on FS1. Kansas State has been explosive and balanced. They run it with Deuce Vaughn. They've thrown it with whoever's playing quarterback, Adrian Martinez or Will Howard. Kansas State, though, has struggled to hold up against the run defensively. Baylor can run it. This feels like a game Baylor can win at home by running the football the way they have this year. But Baylor also has feasted on turnovers. Can Kansas State protect the football in this one? I think another one of those compelling Big 12 matchups.
Adrian Martinez is about to set a record that no one knows about but should care about. He's close to joining Colin Kaepernick as the only FBS players with at least 10,000 passing yards and 3,000 rushing yards.
He
can do it. He can do both in this game. He's within like 150 of both. If he has a great game, he's setting that record. And Colin Kaepernick became the talk of the NFL draft because of his dynamic play at Nevada. I'm just saying, like,
I can't hear that, Hutton, and not think about Nebraska fans hearing that.
That's why I bring it up.
And thinking, I mean, his stats were ridiculous.
And I'm not saying he's an NFL
top
guy,
5 in everything in Nebraska. because he started as a true freshman.
This is crazy.
And
what they're
played
doing.
over 4 years. Like, he's statistically towards the top, if not at the top of every Nebraska statistical category.
Baylor is 6-3. Does Baylor finish the regular season 6-6? Because it's Kansas State, it's TCU, and it's Texas.
They'll
the
get one
next
of those.
3 weeks. I
It's a
think so
tight-
too, but that's a hell of a 3-pack.
That also tells you TCU's case for being underrated. The fact that you're naming all these good games for Baylor, and no one's considering TCU's path through the unbeaten ranks right now. They
Also-
are now. They're
I
in
mean,
now,
if
but
TCU
last
comes
week.
out of it, they're worthy. Just none of us expect them to come out.
No.
Coming up, Withrow's top 5 games of the college football weekend on OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't @ me. I've got you covered. Take a look. You and some ex-teammates. You went down, you spent a day with the U.S. Border Patrol down in the Del Rio sector at Eagle Pass, Texas. It was a humanitarian visit. You're showing support. Walk me through. How did it come about, and what did you see when you were there?
Well, Sonia Moshmeyer gave me a call, and she asked me if she said she went down a couple of weeks before with Brian Urlacher to the border in Arizona. And she asked me if I'd like to go. I said, absolutely. And she said, can you get a couple extra guys? I said, sure. So I called Mike Barber and Andy Doris, 2 friends of mine that I played with. Mike was my tight end. Andy was a defensive end. And they said the same thing. Yeah, let's go. And we flew down on Mike's friend's plane and met Sonia here. And she took us through the ranks and meeting everybody. And I'll tell you what, it was a mind-opening experience. It's something that needs to be exposed and needs to be talked about. I mean, there's like 2.7 million people that came over in 22 and 1.7 that came over in 21, illegal immigrant encounters. Over 1 million gotaways, which are criminals and terrorists that they can't find. They're here in the country. And since we've been there, I guess probably anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 illegals come across every day. We saw some of the footage the other day, which was the election day, I think it was, and they were just coming over left and right. But the problem is the administration has just turned their back on them.
9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
Hey guys, it's Tommy. Check out OutKick.com for exclusive content and make sure you follow me on social media at Tommy Lahren. So from the moment it leaked the Supreme Court was rumored to overturn Roe v. Wade, I knew this could be the issue that screwed Republicans, and ding, 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 I wasn't wrong. Exit polling showed about 6 out of 10 voters said they were dissatisfied or angry about the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade, and about the same percentage said abortion should be legal. Nationally, over 30% of voters named inflation as the top issue, but here's the kicker. In Michigan and Pennsylvania, it was abortion that was issue numero uno. And guess what, Republicans? Whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, or somewhere in the middle, the fact of the matter is we as a party absolutely suck at messaging on this issue. And here's a reminder for those who forgot. I lean to the pro-choice side of things, but I do agree with the Supreme Court's decision to kick the question back down to the states where it belongs. See, I understand that is what the Dobbs decision did, but guess what? A lot of Americans don't get it. They've bought into the very effective and very false fear propaganda the left has been peddling, that abortion was made illegal, or that women who have a miscarriage or choose their own life before their unborn child will somehow be prosecuted and thrown in jail. That's a crock of crap. It's not what the Dobbs decision did or said, but some people are kind of stupid. Voters are uneducated. They listen to pop and TikTok stars and don't bother to even do basic baseline research, not even a freaking Google search or ask Siri. That's unfortunate, but newsflash, it's not changing because voters, especially the young ones, are getting dumber. So it's up to Republicans to take back the narrative and get our messaging through loud and clear. It is not helpful for Republicans to spout off about banning abortion. It's not. And if we want to win a presidential election for the rest of eternity, we better stop making that our battle cry. And if you think any differently, you're lying to yourself, however self-righteous it may sound in your own head. Tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern as I give you my hot takes and, of course, my final thoughts.
He's terrific.
Big college games coming up this weekend. We've previewed the numbers 6 through 10 for you. Kansas State, Baylor, Georgia, Mississippi State, Louisville, Clemson, Maryland on the road against Penn State and Happy Valley. And then we've got Wisconsin and Iowa making the top 10 barely for Chad Withrow. Chad, let's start with number 5. You've got the Tar Heels, who I don't think many know they're 8-1 on the season. And they are on the road at a place where it is very difficult to win, Wake Forest.
I love the show Stranger Things. They have this thing called the Upside Down in Stranger Things. This is the upside down version of Wisconsin, Iowa. That's what this game will be, because it is going to be pass happy, lots of points. Drake May, Sam Hartman, 2 terrific college quarterbacks. Love this matchup. Wake Forest, a 3.5-point favorite at home against North Carolina. Guys, North Carolina, 1 loss in the season. If they win this game, they're an underdog. They get Georgia Tech. They should destroy them. And they get a home game with NC State at the end of the year. You're looking at a possible 11-1 team headed to an ACC championship game
against Clemson
in North Carolina.
This is
something to watch.
The Tar Heels are also trying to go 6-0 on the road, which will be the first time they've done that in program history. And just real quick, Wake Forest with 11 turnovers in their last 2 games. But I said they're very difficult to beat at home. They're like 16-3 in their last 19 at home or something. And also keep in mind, you're right about the shootout. The over-under, I don't know what it is. It's got to be close to 80. Because the last 2 years, 59-53, 58-55. And both of them, it was 45 to like 25. Wake over Carolina, and Carolina pulled comebacks in both. This is going to be fun.
It's the upside down of Wisconsin, Iowa.
Yes.
Game number 4, LSU at Arkansas. I'll make this very simple. Arkansas is going to win this game. They are a 3-point underdog at home. This is an 11 a.m. Central Time kick on ESPN. KJ Jefferson is going to play. His legs will have to be a factor in this one. If Arkansas is going to win, Razorbacks, even with the loss to Liberty, they've got a great running game. I think this is where Sam Pittman's group rises up and gets a huge win at home. There's a reason this is such a small line.
I hope you're right, Chad. And I was confident in my picks last week, so I'm riding with you here. So I'm taking Arkansas with you. I trust you.
I don't.
LSU has not turned the ball over in 212 snaps now. And they have scored on 10 of their last 13 possessions, which goes back 3 games. Can Arkansas do that? Because I don't doubt LSU right now. And I do doubt Arkansas.
Surely you're rooting for LSU because you want LSU to be as good as possible, having
he's whatever.
Your team having
he's rooting for his bank
them.
account.
I'm like Heath Ledger's Joker. I just want the world to burn. Some people just root for the world
Everyone
to burn.
can lose
and
except for
me.
Tennessee.
I feel utter contempt for Arkansas. All of these SEC teams that we hyped before the season,
I know who
are
he's
average now, should burn.
Arkansas
should
if the Vols
burn.
win, they can all lose.
There's a team.
That's my philosophy.
There's a team that's about to pop up that you're rooting against.
So game number 3.
I see that team.
Number 25, Washington at Oregon. The Ducks, 13.5-point favorite. 7 p.m. Eastern kick on Fox. If this game was in Seattle, I think it would be far more interesting. It is not. I think Oregon wins, but watch out because Oregon at times has been tested by the passing attack. Washington's got the best passing offense in the Pac-12. So they could put up some yards and points in this game.
So Michael Penix Jr. leads the nation with an average of 359 passing yards per game. And he's the first FBS quarterback to reach 3,000 passing yards this season. And defensively, they have 26 sacks. Bo Nix is a surprising Heisman candidate right now.
Yes, he is. He's right there.
Bo Nix sack avoidance is a big story.
They have back-to-back games now with ranked opponents. Oregon does. This is one of those. If the Pac-12 is going to eat their own, this is a game to watch.
All right, here's one to watch. You guys ready? Game number 2.
Ready.
Number 4 TCU at number 18 Texas. It is incredible that TCU, currently undefeated in the college football playoff. We're talking about their route to get undefeated, but no one really believes they're going unbeaten. I don't. I think Texas wins at home. TCU has won narrowly multiple times this year. Can they continue with that magic? I think Texas is playing well enough. Granted, a team that has not fared well in close games. I think they get over the hump at home. I think they beat TCU. Here's a stat for you. TCU has only turned it over multiple times, twice this year. Both of those came in their 2 Big 12 road games. If this is a third and they turn it over multiple times for a third straight Big 12 road game, Longhorns win.
Texas is favored by 7. Per ESPN Stats and Info, since 1978, there have been no instances of a top 5 team being more than a 6.5-point dog versus a team outside the top 10.
Well, we had the Vegas rankings yesterday. They're 15th. So that shows you what Vegas thinks about TCU.
That's
also.
a one-score spread. TCU's 3-0 in one-score games this year. Let's go.
That magic may continue. Game number 1, boys, not hard to figure out. Let's go to Oxford. Lane Kiffin. It is the teacher meeting the pupil.
Again.
Saban versus Kiffin. Number 9 Alabama.
0-3 or 0-4?
12.5 point or 12-point road favorite at number 11, Ole Miss. 3:30 CBS game.
I think Kiffin's 0-3 against Saban now.
He's about to be 0-4.
He's had a week to prepare, though. And Saban's 0-2 in the last couple big games now.
It sounds crazy that we're talking about motivation for a team with only 2 losses.
I know.
But that is legitimate for Bama, who they've been in every college football playoff since 2014. They're not going to be there this year.
Ole Miss
Are they motivated enough for this game because they're not playing for a national title? I think they're going to be fine.
They're there. Ole Miss ranks 3rd nationally in rushing yards per game. They average 264 per game. Can they run on Bama's defense? That's what this comes down to. Jackson's starting. That's all good, but can they control the tempo of this game?
I love all 3 of these stats. Bama's bottom 25 in the country in offensive line penalties per game, blown run blocks per game, overall blown blocks per game. Doesn't sound like Nick Saban to me.
Well, they had a ton of penalties last year, and they
Got away with it.
They won close in some tight games. And now they're losing close in some tight games recently on the final play of Tennessee and LSU. And you could argue, like, Bama should have made the kick.
Tide's going to roll Saturday. That's my prediction.
I have a feeling about that too, but I said that last week, Jeff.
You did. You did indeed. You talked me out of it.
I'm gun shy.
I thought LSU was going to have a great chance at winning, and you talked me out of that.
We talk NFL and the top games across Week 10 next on OutKick 360. It is time for the OutKick 363 and 63 questions, 60 seconds. Here we go.
Who's the most underrated college football player this season and why?
Most underrated this season would be Hendon Hooker, because no one's talking about him for the first round of the NFL draft. He's the best quarterback going right now. He's the Heisman favorite. He's delivering at every moment. We should talk about him more.
Would you rather be stronger or faster?
Faster, because even if I'm stronger, many people can beat my ass. I need to be faster so I can outrun those people.
And if you weren't named Jonathan, what would you want to be named?
Oh, so I was named, my name was Matthew for about 3.5 days. Adopted in 1984, and for 3 days, my name card said Matthew, because I guess my birth mom named me Matthew, but I didn't have a last name, and I'm glad that my name is Jonathan David Hutton and not Matthew. What a crazy NFL season. The Panthers win over the Falcons last night on Thursday Night Football in a game that was made for the run. Made for the run, and the Falcons lose by 10, 25-15. Is Steve Wilks this year's Rich Bisaccia?
Maybe.
He looks pretty good.
With
Not as good as
with
Bisaccia.
the fact that he's a minority, which means everyone's going to go crazy if he
doesn't
keeps
get
winning
it.
2 games more down the stretch and he doesn't get the job. He's already involved in the lawsuit, right, with Brian Flores.
Yeah.
The media nationally will go nuts if he keeps winning. And he doesn't have to keep winning at a high pace either if they go on and move on and hire a white guy. That will happen in Carolina if they don't hire Steve Wilks, who was named the interim, and they chose to do that. And props to him. I'm not trying to negate that. They're doing great, but I can feel it coming, guys.
They also trade McCaffrey and get the same effect the Titans got when Derrick Henry got hurt last year from Foreman.
So I don't think it's McCaffrey, though. I think it's the mentality of the offense where they're now forced to turn around and just full steam ahead bull rush.
Yeah, but I'm saying the guy is just good. He's a good replacement running back. He's a good enough replacement running back that he should be somebody's
baffling.
feature back.
It's also
baffling
funny
that
to
he
me.
Bounced around as long as he did.
I don't know if you guys maybe share my sense of humor or not, but it's funny to me that Steve Wilks, just like Brian Flores, in the lawsuit, is doing what's worst for the organization in winning this year. They need a high draft pick. They need to tank. And what is Brian Flores suing over? He was told to lose, and he wouldn't do it. And Steve Wilks is winning, and the Panthers don't need to be winning. Look, I'm all for integrity of competition.
They now have 3 wins.
He's doing his job.
They're not going to win in the end.
They have 3 wins, though. They need to be at 1 or 2. They need to secure the number 1 pick. That's what they need.
Well, you can't get in front of Houston. Don't be rash.
It's
okay,
very
the number
difficult
2
to do
pick.
that now.
The number 2 pick.
Deontay Foreman against the NFC South. 15 carries, 118 yards against the Falcons in Week 8. He had 26, or excuse me, that was Week 7 against the Bucs. Week 8 against the Falcons, 26 for 118 and 3 touchdowns. And then last night, 30 carries, 130 yards, and 1 touchdown. It's remarkable when you keep things simple. And I think the Colts are about to do that. Simplify things. Just run full steam ahead. Just
see a
keep
lot
an
of
eye on
simple
Wilks.
football.
He did not do well in his 1 year with the Cardinals, but the Cardinals were named in the lawsuit. And if he doesn't get this job, I mean,
It's just more
he's
evidence.
litigious. It's a very awkward situation if he wins another game. That's all I'm saying.
I have a hard
It sets up
time-
for a narrative that I would hate covering because we know he's very good in these situations, but we also know there are other candidates that an owner should be able to go out and hire.
And Tepper he likes that big name flash and all of that. Also, Wilks is from Charlotte. I mean, it's a lovely story if it's working.
I'm going to be very Paul here in what I'm saying. I have a hard time getting past Steve Wilks as defensive coordinator at Missouri a year ago.
That's completely
I mean,
reasonable.
you've got Eli Drinkwitz just completely rolling the guy under a semi this week when he's talking about last year's 62-point outburst by Tennessee and saying, yeah, we went back and reviewed that game, and whatever we were trying to do on defense, Tennessee recognized it, and we've corrected that mistake.
Yep.
And they bring in Blake Baker, and they're a top 10, top 20 defense nationally. A year later, they were the worst in college football last year with Steve Wilks calling defense in the college game.
He's just not a college guy. I just say that kind of as devil's advocate.
I'm making up a storyline before it happens. I apologize for that. I believe that the news cycle in the NFL is very cyclical. And when things get slow and it's the off season and you need a storyline, Bisaccia had some momentum, but there was no uproar really, other than like 24 to 48 hours that they were not going to keep him because it quickly turned to Josh McDaniels for the first time in 10 years
Who's
being
a
willing
shiny
to
guy.
leave and join the Raiders over other organizations, including the Colts, the Jaguars, and others
Colts
who
who
tried,
he signed up with.
yeah, who either wanted to hire him, chose to hire him, or
He
asked
left
to
at the
interview
altar.
him, and he said no. This will get this is going to get weird because they're winning enough in a bad division to where he can make a case to stick around. And so far, so good. He's got a team playing very hard for him. Other big games across the Week 10 slate. Vikings in Buffalo. And the Bills, believe it or not, are still favored in this game, even though Josh Allen is officially questionable with that UCL, the elbow injury. And you have the Vikings coming in at 7-1. The question here is, do you trust a Vikings offense that can be balanced? And Kirk Cousins, who is very patient, has not turned it over very much, and distributes the football in a methodical way? Or do you trust the Buffalo Bills defense that has allowed less than 15 points per game, number one in the NFL?
Well, the problem is that Buffalo's defense is beat up. It's not just Josh Allen, right?
Matt Milano.
They've got Rousseau, Hyde, Poyer out. Elam in the secondary could be out. I don't know if this is out yet. Tremaine Edmonds could be out. If you've got Edmonds and Rousseau out, your run defense is hurting, and the Vikings can go to Dalvin Cook and create some problems.
So just thinking about this game, the line sets up for the Vikings to go in and cover. But just based on the situation, the Vikings this year are winning tight window games. Like we've pointed that out. The Bills are also doing that for the first time throughout their era. But that's been with Josh Allen. And now the Vikings have TJ Hawkinson, who was a splash at the trade and then contributed immediately.
Caught
with
9 passes on 9
passes.
targets.
Yes. And then the other storyline here is the Cook family. You have Dalvin Cook and James Cook going head-to-head in this game. That's cool. And Kirk Cousins, at least one touchdown pass in 38 straight games coming into today, or this weekend, Week 10.
I mean, Case Keenum's capable, but I think, the majority thinking is that the Vikings will win this, and if the Bills lose this, it really throws the AFC into some disarray.
Feels like a game. I'm just going with the flip side of everything. I don't understand that line. If Josh Allen isn't playing, we don't think he is, which leads me to believe the Bills will win and cover with Case Keenum as starting quarterback at home. That's what will happen. Bills defense will have a huge day.
We go to Las Vegas. Colts against the Raiders. This is one of those, you're tuning in for the train wreck, or you're tuning in to see if Josh McDaniels is actually going to lose a game. And this team is going to lose a game, and they're banged up, by the way, against Jeff Saturday and the put-together hodgepodge coaching staff that still remains over the last 3 weeks. Parks Frazier is the new play caller.
30 years old.
Yeah. And you have a 2-6 Raiders team in Vegas who's expected to win this game going away. -4.5. They've led 3 games by 17 points, at least 17 points, and have lost those games this season. I have no idea about this.
How healthy is Taylor coming off of, I can't remember what it is that he had, but that's my big question going into this game.
He's practicing all week, and he's officially, it looks like he's playing in this game. Just keep in mind, the Raiders don't turn the football over that often. They only have 7. That's second best in the league to Philly, who only has 3 this year.
But they're down Renfro, they're down Waller.
Yes.
They're really thinned out.
Cowboys and Packers.
By the way, we like to joke about the time I got sent to the girls' side of the court to practice for the girls. It's a lose-lose proposition when that happens. This is a no-win proposition for Josh McDaniels.
I agree.
If he loses this game.
I mean, this is win or pink slips, according to Joe Thomas, who believes that it takes a PhD and working 20 hours a day to coach in the NFL, and that you have to do that for about 15 years before getting a shot to be a head coach. If Jeff Saturday comes off the couch and off the ESPN analyst box and comes in there, he was sitting next to Hannah Storm a week ago. And if he's sitting next to Parks Frazier, is that the guy's name? The 30-year-old?
Yes.
And he goes in there and wins, look out, NFL. I'm going to torch you come Monday and all of your coaches, because that is an embarrassment.
Well, and
if
this
that
is
happens.
5 days removed from a press conference where the owner of an NFL club said he's glad, he's happy that Jeff Saturday has 0 experience as a head coach. in the NFL.
'Cause he's not
or
scared.
coaching, period, in the NFL. Because he's not scared of analytics and everything that goes on with job security. Nuts. Cowboys and Packers. Job security was a factor for Mike McCarthy about 11 weeks ago, and it's no longer there. I mean, amazing job by Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys. At 6-2, they're favored by 4.5 on the road against the Green Bay Packers. The return of Mike McCarthy to Green Bay. In a weird set of circumstances, Aaron Rodgers, his one Super Bowl win was with Mike McCarthy as the head coach of the Packers. They won that Super Bowl in Dallas, and now the Cowboys win. This is the one team that Mike McCarthy has not won against in his entire career.
The Packers lose Rashawn Gary to an ACL
He's
tear,
out.
which is a big loss. Sammy Watkins is not close to 100%. Romeo Doubs, high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for a while. And the Packers, before those things, were averaging
Lazard's
17.1 points a game.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
bad.
this is a marquee matchup at the start of the year. It's still a marquee matchup because of the names on the jerseys. But, I mean, a 4.5 point spread is nowhere near big enough here. Packers could get shut out.
A weird year in the NFL, though. I keep coming back to this, and I'm not trying to play antagonist in all of this, but it would be weird if Case Keenum beats the one-loss Vikings. It's probably going to happen based on the way this season.
It could
you know what
easily
was
happen.
weird? The Panthers doing what they did last night against the Falcons. There have been so many weird outcomes this season.
Cowboys should clobber the
I
Packers.
really feel like this might be another one.
May I? What's also weird, Dallas is only favored by 4.5.
That's what I'm saying. It should be double the
Consider
spread,
this.
Hut.
The Packers have committed 25 penalties.
I say triple the spread
over
based
their
on what I
last
think of this
3
game.
games. But the other rule is, what does Vegas know?
Exactly. That's why I keep going back to Packers will win.
The
outright.
Packers have committed 25 penalties over their past 3 games. The Cowboys have a league-high 33 sacks. They legitimately have, just top to bottom, probably the best player, the just pure football player in the NFL, and Micah Parsons on their defense. Dak Prescott, slow coming back from injury, and now this is his first road game officially of the season for him, starting. He had a tremendous performance. Dallas is coming off a bye week. Meanwhile, Green Bay hasn't played at Lambeau in nearly a month because London counted as a home game for them.
Green Bay has
Yeah,
it.
right. Green Bay. So, again, Dallas is only favored by 4.5.
Yeah, that's odd. It scares you into thinking what Chad's
So
saying.
load
that
up on the
Packers have a
Packers
chance.
money line.
It's
That's what that's telling
odd. We will get to the Cardinals and Rams coming up later. Chargers and 49ers as well, where San Francisco at 4-4, coming off a bye, much healthier than the Chargers right now, who are still down some offensive firepower. But at the same time, guys, they continue to quietly win games, right? That's how I would describe them. The national marquee games, by the way, they're going to be back-to-back weeks on Sunday Night Football because they got flexed coming up in Week 11, I believe, with the Chiefs. So we'll get to see Los Angeles twice now in marquee.
Chargers have been one
Gotta
of the bigger
step it up.
disappointments, even though they don't have a terrible record. It's been a disappointment based on expectation this season so far.
I mean, that division has been a disappointment, really, beyond the Chiefs. It's kind of the status quo as opposed to Chargers on the rise, Raiders on the rise, Denver coming on with Russell Wilson. None of that's happened. Titans, Denver is the lowest over-under of the week. Titans have a ton of defensive guys out this week. There may be no points.
Simmons is
in
out.
this
Big
game.
Jeff is out.
Yeah. And Denver doesn't score. The Titans, Tannehill is, closer, but still not a guarantee. And the
Game
Titans
time.
aren't scoring a lot of points.
Officially game time
Sounds
decision.
like, no designation today. So I think he'll probably be listed as questionable when it's out. He was limited today after being full yesterday.
Here's San Francisco off the bye. Expected back. Deebo Samuel, Elijah Mitchell, Juwan Jennings, and Kyle Juszczyk. So you start looking at the offensive firepower there, and then Garoppolo, prior to their bye week, had the best game of the season as the starter so far this season. They're favored by 7 at home. Meanwhile, again, the Cowboys favored by 4.5 on the road against this Packers team. Weird, Chad. Don't waste your money on that.
I'm not going to.
It's a weekend to be careful. It feels like.
I'm probably going to pick the Packers to win outright. So that's where I'm going.
How would we bet the Vikings-Bills game where the Bills are favored by 3? We will head to the foremost authority on the Buffalo Bills. Tim Graham about to join us, Paul, and from the Buffalo sports writer with The Athletic. Tremendous, and you worked with him at ESPN.
Yeah.
And he's about to hop on and tell us the latest on Josh Allen.
Terrific dude who knows not just the Bills, but the Buffalo market inside and out. So look forward to getting
much
his
better
insight.
than that dude from Detroit that tried to snake your job when you
what
lost
was his
it.
name?
We can
What was
ask
that?
him about Rothstein.
I want to ask about Rothstein. That was a great interaction
We
at
will-
the Combine.
We will
with
start.
Paul and Rothstein.
Can we start with the story on the escalator when we come
Yeah,
back?
I mean, you could tell him the story. He probably doesn't know.
Oh, let's
will.
begin. Paul, one of us will tell the story of you and Rothstein, escalator going up, escalator going down.
And just passing.
And
Me shouting at him.
the interaction with everyone in the media at the Combine listening in on you and Rothstein. We'll start with that.
And the best part is we had known this story. We didn't know the guy.
I had no idea who he was talking to
Then I had
until
to tell you who it was.
we hit the escalator, and as we're going, like
didn't
first
know what he
step,
looked like.
Paul goes, "Hey guys, this is Rothstein, who I've been telling you about, tried to steal my job." And then we'll pick up there when we come
Launched
back
into it.
with Tim Graham, and we'll also tell you about the status of Josh Allen and his expectations for Allen this week, and expectations for the Bills against the 7-1 Vikings on OutKick 360.
Was there a moment that you always look back to from Black Hawk Down and you said to yourself in that moment, I am not making it out? Like, I will not survive today because of this one thing.
It was kind of the entire day, the entire night. There was a portion of time, I think, in the middle of the night where things kind of calmed down and it wasn't as chaotic, and we were just kind of sitting waiting for guys in helicopters to get extricated and things like that. And it wasn't until the sun started to kind of peak back up where you're like, oh, this is going to turn back on again. But for the initial assault and 2 or 3 times that I went out into the city, it was just, I don't think any of us are going to make it out alive. And so every time we would kind of get back and be secure and all right, get more ammo, and we're going back out to try and find this other crash site. And I didn't think that it was happening for any of us. I kind of came to peace. I was just telling my son about this actually the other day, but I kind of came to peace with, okay, if I get hit in the chest, like I've got a plate carrier, hopefully that stops it. If I get hit in the arms or the legs, chances are I'll live. And if I get hit anywhere else, it's probably going to be pretty quick and traumatic and over. So I hope that I remember thinking specifically in the middle of the afternoon, I hope that I can just like look at the blue sky and have something peaceful to look at, not this whole, what I'm looking at in front of me. I hope that's not my last moments. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace.
This one, I picked it because the caption's just frankly funny. And it's also geotagged your mom's house. It says balls deep, as we used to say, long before it was a popular term. The meaning to us referred to how far into bad guy territory we were. These are a few picks from that day and also a pic of us getting ready to go. We lost a mate on this day, Andy Fernandez. Although he was brand new to the unit, he had just been assigned, he left his mark, and will forever be etched into historic endeavors. R.I.P. Andy. So I know you probably can't get into specifics. The caption's hilarious, the top half of it anyways. But Are you able to say anything about what this Instagram post is in relation to?
That was post gunfight. I think it's been talked about in some book, someplace. So I don't read any military history stuff, so I don't know. People will send me things sometimes where like, oh, this must be from this book that so and so wrote about. Like I don't know. It was kind of post gunfight. We were outnumbered and surrounded by 130, 150 dudes, and had at least beat everybody back enough that that was kind of that moment when that picture was taken. So we didn't necessarily know at the time, like it was any gunfight is a scary moment, and, you don't really necessarily know the outcome. But it was almost, for me and where I was, it was almost a fun gunfight. Like, they couldn't hit me where I was, and they couldn't hit my group where we were based on the terrain. And so we were almost kind of laughing, running back and forth, shooting at these guys over here, go grab some more ammo, go shoot at these guys over here. And so it wasn't, a terrifying moment. It turned into not to be a terrifying moment. But then we started hearing radio calls, hey, we got some people hit and injured, and okay, well, now this is a serious thing. It's not a funny thing anymore. And if anything, the post kind of reflects that, where,
Right.
Initially, hey, haha, fun. This was, a good day. And then, somebody paid the ultimate price that day. And but that's about as much as I can say.
We have always had a blast when Tim Graham has joined us. Now with The Athletic, used to work with Paul at ESPN, and he covers the Buffalo Bills, the authority when it comes to the Bills. We're going to get the latest on Josh Allen and more. But Tim, we went to break discussing, and Paul reminded us of the Mike Rothstein story of the confrontation at the Combine, right, Paul? In Indianapolis. Paul's contract had just not been renewed by ESPN during some layoffs and budget cuts. And Rothstein, who was with Detroit at the time, within a matter of hours, minutes.
It was a summit. So I didn't get renewed on Friday.
He tried to get Paul's job
when everybody was going to the summit. And so I see Rothstein at the Combine. We're going up one big, those huge elevators. We're going up one. Rothstein's coming down the other. Well, what I heard, I put out my email I put out my tweet right at the start of our radio show at noon in Nashville. And my understanding was at the summit where all of the ESPN reporters were, they were just starting a session. Everybody sees this. Very few people knew why I wasn't there. And it creates this huge buzz. And Rothstein, at the very first break, immediately goes to management and says, how do I get the Nashville gig?
And so, Tim, we in the show, Paul had already told us about this during the show, I believe, during a break. And as we hit the escalator, Chad, what happened?
So Paul turns to me and you, Hutton, and says, hey, remember that guy Rothstein I told you about that tried to snake my job? This is him right here.
He's coming up.
Paul, you can go from there about what you said, something about, sorry you didn't get Nashville, buddy. Sorry you didn't get
Sorry you didn't get
hard.
Nashville, you snake. You're stuck in Detroit where you belong.
You were
Good
clapping,
job, though. Good luck on the next one, buddy. Good luck.
Tim, the funniest part of the whole exchange was we get to the bottom of the escalator. That's Rothstein's the top. And Paul just turns back and says, boy, those Detroit winters are brutal.
Yeah.
I hate that
Good
for
luck
you.
standing in those 3 feet of snow,
But
buddy.
you got to stay there. That's when I lost it.
So, Tim, be glad that you never tried to get Nashville in the Titans gig.
Was already gone by then. I was one of the more fortunate maneuvers of my career, and I'll be honest, I didn't think that it was going to be a lock, but I left ESPN by choice before I was let out, like so many others were. I don't know what, about a year later, Paul, or how it wasn't.
Maybe 2. You got out early.
I was standing, and I don't want to I don't want to violate the trust of any former ESPN employees, but
go on.
After the Bills Chiefs game a couple of weeks back, I guess 3 weeks ago at Arrowhead Stadium, and as you know, that visitors press conference room is about the size of a postage stamp.
Yes.
And so we're lined up against the wall, myself and two other former. One was a current ESPN employee and another former. And we were trying to figure out if we worked together. And one of them looks at me and says, you got out before the flamethrower came through. And we all had a nice chuckle as we started to remember who we worked for, who our bosses were, who our supervisors were, whether or not they were still there. We were getting a good chuckle out of it. But we've all landed on our feet, Paul.
Just give a quick thought on Rothstein. Where did he rank in 1 to 32?
By the way, Tim,
just give us like the quintile of the quintile.
I would love the old ESPN NFL Nation power rankings, 1 through 32. If you guys can compile the list.
I also want it to be known. I have been Rothstein and I have been in the same atmosphere for about 15 seconds in my entire life. I want to keep it that way because this is like quintessential story in Paul's life when, he was going hard at everything.
It's also, Tim, like so many interactions with Paul where he's going off on someone, and I believe Rothstein was saying something over and over like, yeah, you're all class, Paul. you're all class, buddy.
Very classy.
Well, see, that is one thing
classy.
Your thoughts on Rothstein?
I know that I'm a guest here on this program, and I don't generally like to go walking into somebody's living room and insult them right to their face. But I think we can all agree that this story to us is entertaining. But anybody watching right now could give two lumps.
Oh no, they love it.
About this.
That's not true.
I'm telling you,
this is a very self-important story that Paul is reveling in.
No, it's about Rothstein's importance, not mine.
Straight drama, and we tell the story anytime we have a former ESPN employee on with Paul.
And I never was part of the 32. I was one of the original 8 guys. I was out of there before we went to a team by team format. So
he was 29th at the highest. At his peak, he was 29th.
Rothstein, you're saying.
And by the way,
he's
Paul
now
was
in
there
Atlanta.
too.
Poor Arthur Smith.
Hey, so Josh Allen, we know he's officially questionable, Tim. Tim Graham with us from The Athletic. What are your thoughts on if you think he actually plays, how they've played this week? And without Josh Allen, who are the Buffalo Bills?
They're Case Keenum. So that's that answer there. We can delve into that a little bit more. But to answer your first question, this is not inside information. Maybe it's a little bit of an educated guess, but not any kind of super sleuth scoop I'm going to give you. I don't think Josh Allen plays on Sunday. He was officially limited today at practice, but he's missed a lot of time. This is a disconcerting injury. Yes, there is a sleeve/brace that you can wear that will make sure that you don't extend your elbow in such a way as to further the injury or the sprain, while also being able to maintain your throwing motion. But still, the contact, the torque that this guy puts on his passes. I mean, there's a reason he's known for being this larger than life bombardier. And it's because he goes out all out and he's going to run the ball and he's going to need to tuck the ball away, even if he's a guy who stiff arms linebackers if he's not jumping over them. And so if he's going to stiff arm with his right hand, or he's going to even say, I'm going to stiff arm with my left, he's got to tuck that ball away somewhere into the crook of his elbow. That's exactly where that injury is. And it's anyways, I'm throwing some rationalizations in there too, but I also just think with the way that the week has unfolded, not being able to go out there and practice at all while trying to rest the elbow, it just doesn't seem plausible. But then again, as one of the undercurrents of this storyline is that Josh Allen is that kind of guy. I mean, I'm not, saying he's Kurt Schilling, with the bloody sock, but this is the type of guy who you might want to could maybe bet on trying to play through something like this.
And if Allen's not there, you mentioned Case Keenum. Physically, they're obviously very different. There's limitations there with Keenum as opposed to Allen. But does the offense fundamentally change at all with Case Keenum? And if so, how does it change?
It has to. Josh Allen is their leading rusher. He leads the NFL in total offense because of that. So you have a guy who's the ultimate combination of arm and legs. I mean, I did a piece before the season began in which, and we're all of a certain vintage here. I think we all four of us recall the Sports Illustrated cover with Randall Cunningham on it.
Yes.
The NFL preview issue, we called him the ultimate weapon. Well, Josh Allen is that plus 30 pounds. And instead of juking around defenders, we'll run him over. You know, he's more fullback than tailback. He's a weapon, and maybe the greatest weapon in the entire NFL. And so Case Keenum at 34, you take away that running aspect, you take away the downfield heave that you can maybe even get. You factor in that he has not been taking quality reps with this offense. So the backfield is going to have to get way more involved than it has been. You know, we're talking Devin Singletary, Nyheim Hines, who they acquired at the trade deadline. The offensive line is everybody's going to have to be better. It's going to be a pocket passing offense. Case Keenum, by the way, I looked this up. Case Keenum averages about 6 yards a game rushing, not 6 yards a carry, 6 yards a game over the course of his career. This is not a guy who's going to take off. RPOs are not a thing with Case Keenum. And so that's how much it's going to change.
Tim Graham from The Athletic with us. You can follow him on social at @ByTimGraham. The narrative right now is Minnesota-Buffalo. But this to me, I'm trying to look ahead. This affects not just the AFC, but, the division right now and what's a very good AFC East. And I believe that Allen went through something like this his rookie year. If not, you can correct me on that.
He did.
Marcus Mariota also went. I remember, Paul, Mariota missed or was hampered like for 3 weeks or so. But that's enough to really shake up the apple cart here where the AFC path to the Super Bowl doesn't have to go through Orchard Park, which is the presumed case right now, especially out of that division where you could have a division winner that's not Buffalo, which would also be surprising. Beyond just this week, expectations for what this does for the AFC East, Tim.
The Jets and the Dolphins are only a half game back of the Bills right now because of the bye week situation. The Bills have had their bye. Those other teams haven't. And then the Patriots are right behind that. Everybody has a winning record in the AFC East. Now, that's not to say that they're the better teams, but you subtract Allen for long enough, and that closes the gap that is already pretty tight. I think that before the season began, one of the safest bets on the board would be the Bills to win the AFC East. And now the Jets are a surprise. The Dolphins are better than people were going to give them credit for because of all the upheaval and controversy and everything from Brian Flores to, with Stephen Ross and Tom Brady and Sean Payton and that whole thing. It just seemed a mess. You had a team that clearly was not interested in Tua Tagovailoa being their quarterback. And now all of a sudden we're talking about him as an MVP candidate. So that's how much that surprise is. The one thing that the Bills do have going for them, though, is their next 3 games are out of the division, and 2 of them are against NFC opponents. And also interesting, Case Keenum, the next 2 opponents are his former teams, Minnesota and Cleveland. Big revenge games that I'm sure are going to tilt the balance of how the different NFL markets pick up the broadcast. But it comes at a decent time, I think, for the Bills. To have Minnesota, Cleveland, Detroit as the next 3 opponents. And then you still have 2 games against the Patriots and 1 each, both at home, against the Jets and the Dolphins. So I think that if the Bills do lose some ground with Allen being out, they can make it back up by taking care of business.
Defensively, how vulnerable are they? Rousseau, we know, is out. Hyde and Poyer not around. What's the status of Elam and Edmonds, and how vulnerable are they to what the Vikings offer, particularly with Dalvin Cook?
Yeah, I don't think Elam's going to play on Sunday. That's not a huge loss. So you also have Tre'Davious White, the Pro Bowl, All-Pro. I don't want to discredit him. I mean, he's that good. He was in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation a couple of years ago. He's eligible to come back from his non-contact knee injury that happened on Thanksgiving last year. And he to come in against a Justin Jefferson and an Amari Cooper in back-to-back weeks, he'll obviously be helpful there if he does get the green light finally. Hoyer not going to play. Matt Milano, super talented linebacker, probably comes back on Sunday. He's a sideline-to-sideline guy and probably would have been the difference against the Jets last week. He's that good. So the defense is probably okay, but the Vikings, I mean, they're 7-1, and I know that a lot of people want to look at it, their close games and talk about them being overrated, but 7-1 is still 7-1. They find ways to win games. They find ways to win games late. And when you're talking about the drop off between Josh Allen and Case Keenum, you're thinking that, the Bills aren't just going to hold on to the ball the entire game and have these long, 10, 12 play drives. I mean, the Vikings are going to get their chances. And with Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, they have enough weapons that I think that the Bills defense is probably going to be okay, but they're still going to have their hands full.
Tim Graham with us. Why did the Bills need Nyheim Hines?
Well, they've wanted a receiving back for months, even before the season began. They thought they had J.D. McKissick from Washington. It turned into a little bit of a mini controversy because the Bills thought they had a deal done, and then McKissick's agent went back to Washington and ended up he resigned. They draft Dalvin Cook's brother, James Cook, to fill that role too. So they used big draft capital on him, and he just hasn't been trustworthy enough for the coaching staff. Fumbled away his first NFL touch on opening night.
Yep.
So Nyheim Hines is a proven commodity, I think, for a Super Bowl contender, to not have to go into the playoffs relying on Devin Singletary's done a pretty good job doing both receiving and running, doing that role. But I think that they want a guy who they've seen do it. They want that peace of mind. And so that was why they went out and got him.
James Cook. I wanted to ask you about him because that was one when the Bills drafted him. I'm thinking, boy, this is going to work out with what I saw at Georgia. What has been the issue? I know early on it was a fumble problem in his first game, but overall, what's been the problem?
I think this is a coaching staff that historically has a very short leash with its rookies. You have to be very good and borderline elite, at least relative to a rookie, to get the coaching staff's full trust. And so, and we're talking about, Devin Singletary was in the doghouse. Zach Moss, who they traded to Indianapolis for that Nyheim Hines trade, he's been in the doghouse. You drop a ball, you fumble, you're going to stand on the sidelines maybe for the rest of the game. And so James Cook hasn't done enough of the special things that allow Sean McDermott and his coaching staff to overlook when he does have a lapse. So when given the opportunity, he's been overall, I know we keep going back to that one fumble. Overall, he's been good, but he hasn't been great. And I think that there's still, Sean McDermott has a long memory when it comes to young players messing up.
Tim Graham has been our guest. Final thing on the way out, you can be as brief as you need to here. Von Miller has been adamant that Odell Beckham Jr. is coming with him to Buffalo. Do you think Odell Beckham Jr. is signing with the Bills?
I don't. This is more than an educated guess. However, things change rapidly, and we're seeing that right now. The Bills actually do, as opposed to just 3 weeks, let's say 3 weeks ago, you would take a look at the Bills receiving core and say, these guys are good enough. They have Gabe Davis, who had the 4 touchdowns in the loss to Kansas City last year. I mean, he's had some struggles lately. He's had some drops. Isaiah McKenzie hasn't been as reliable as the Bills had hoped as that number 3 guy. Khalil Shakir, the rookie, who is kind of that mold like Isaiah McKenzie, hasn't, same thing, trust issues type thing. And so now, I was told that it was no iron in the fire on Odell Beckham Jr. A couple of weeks ago, and that Von Miller's just talking. He's blowing smoke. He's maybe driving up the market for his buddy, for someone else. But as time goes on and the Bills deal with getting a little rattly going down the home stretch with their quarterback, and they might need the help, they might feel desperate enough to go out and do something. But I think that there's a wariness also with this front office of signing a guy who's not even ready to try out for teams yet. There might be a team out there that's willing to gamble and say, yes, we need Odell Beckham Jr. so bad, we're willing to sign him now and then let him get ready for late December. This is a front office that doesn't do that. They're not going to do that. So he's gonna need to be ready to try out and show something soon. I think. Otherwise, I do think there's somebody out there that is going to overpay and get a little too excited about Odell Beckham. We're hearing a lot out of Dallas lately. There are some teams out there that I think the Bills might not be as eager to get in front of or try to box out.
Yeah, get in front of Kansas City, and that's about it, right? I mean, that's the idea there. Tim Graham has been our guest, The Athletic. You can read his great work covering the best team in football right now with the Buffalo Bills, who are hosting a team with a better record in Minnesota and possibly without Josh Allen. Tim, thank you so much, man. We appreciate it.
If you can book Rothstein on the show, please do so for us. We'd love
I always enjoy it, guys. Feel free anytime.
All right.
Thanks, Tim.
Tim Graham, The Athletic, Buffalo sports writer, and great coverage there on the Bills. And the biggest story right now in the NFL is Josh Allen's injury. The UCL, which he had in 2018, his rookie year, Paul. Mariota went through this. I believe Mariota was set back like 3 weeks with it.
And Mariota's came from getting stepped on. He got stepped on his forearm, on the underside of his forearm.
I just the fact that I can't get out of my mind the fact he threw a 69-yard pass after suffering that injury.
I wonder what it felt like after that.
I know. But they definitely need him. And Diggs, how does this affect Stephon Diggs, who accounts for like 50% of their offense in the passing game right now? Coming up, we'll see if this injury affects any of the props that Paul will go with. PK's plus money props across the NFL next on OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look. You and some ex-teammates. You went down, you spent a day with the U.S. Border Patrol down in the Del Rio sector at Eagle Pass, Texas. It was a humanitarian visit. You're showing support. Walk me through. How did it come about, and what did you see when you were there?
Well, Sonia Moshmeyer gave me a call, and she asked me if she said she went down a couple of weeks before with Brian Urlacher to the border in Arizona. And she asked me if I'd like to go. I said, absolutely. And she said, can you get a couple extra guys? I said, sure. So I called Mike Barber and Andy Doris, two friends of mine that I played with. Mike was my tight end. Andy was a defensive end. And they said the same thing. Yeah, let's go. And we flew down on Mike's friend's plane and met Sonia here. And she took us through the ranks and meeting everybody. And I'll tell you what, it was a mind-opening experience. It's something that needs to be exposed and needs to be talked about. I mean, there's like 2.7 million people that came over in 22 and 1.7 that came over in 21, illegal immigrant encounters. Over 1 million gotaways, which are criminals and terrorists that they can't find. They're here in the country. And since we've been there, I guess probably anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 illegals come across every day. And we saw some of the footage the other day, which was the election day, I think it was, and they were just coming over left and right. But the problem is the administration has just turned their back on them.
9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
Hey guys, it's Tommy. Check out OutKick.com for exclusive content and make sure you follow me on social media at Tommy Lahren. So from the moment it leaked the Supreme Court was rumored to overturn Roe v. Wade, I knew this could be the issue that screwed Republicans, and ding, 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 I wasn't wrong. Exit polling showed about 6 out of 10 voters said they were dissatisfied or angry about the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade, and about the same percentage said abortion should be legal. Nationally, over 30% of voters named inflation as the top issue, but here's the kicker. In Michigan and Pennsylvania, it was abortion that was issue numero uno. And guess what, Republicans? Whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, or somewhere in the middle, the fact of the matter is we as a party absolutely suck at messaging on this issue. And here's a reminder for those who forgot. I lean to the pro-choice side of things, but I do agree with the Supreme Court's decision to kick the question back down to the states where it belongs. See, I understand that that is what the Dobbs decision did, but guess what? A lot of Americans don't get it. They've bought into the very effective and very false fear propaganda the left has been peddling that abortion was made illegal, or that women who have a miscarriage or choose their own life before their unborn child will somehow be prosecuted and thrown in jail. That's a crock of crap. It's not what the Dobbs decision did or said, but some people are kind of stupid. Voters are uneducated. They listen to pop and TikTok stars and don't bother to even do basic baseline research, not even a freaking Google search or ask Siri. That's unfortunate, but newsflash, it's not changing because voters, especially the young ones, are getting dumber. So it's up to Republicans to take back the narrative and get our messaging through loud and clear. It is not helpful for Republicans to spout off about banning abortion. It's not. And if we want to win a presidential election for the rest of eternity, we better stop making that our battle cry. And if you think any differently, you're lying to yourself, however self-righteous it may sound in your own head. Tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern as I give you my hot takes and, of course, my final thoughts.
Very unpredictable NFL season. 6th and Peabody, our location. We'll preview the games coming up, our top games across the NFL. Plus, I've got the straight upsets for you, the underdogs, later in the show. But right now, PK's got the plus money props. OutKick.com/bet is where you can join us.
Time for me to break out my phone.
Let's make some
to make
cash.
some money.
Let's do it.
Shall we?
He's been very successful here.
We're going to start with Juju Smith-Schuster of the Chiefs. He scored touchdowns in 2 of the last 3 games, not last week against the very stingy Titans defense.
But productive.
Yeah. So, and he's had 2 games all season with under 8 targets. So he's going to get the ball, and I think he's going to get the ball in the end zone against the Jaguars. plus 100 here for an anytime touchdown. Second, we'll go to Justin Fields. Chicago allows 27.8 pass attempts a game. I'm going Fields under 14.5 completions. Did I just say Chicago? Yeah,
you're good.
I got that wrong. But Fields under 14.5.
Well, you're talking about the lines. They're playing the lines.
I'm talking about the lines. The lines are allowing, I think, the second fewest pass completions. That might be
They're
incorrect.
awful against the run. So
Paul, I
like
knew
those.
exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, I don't like Fields
Trevor Lawrence,
to have
though.
a big passing day here. Trevor Lawrence has not thrown an interception in 3 of the last 4 games. He's at Kansas City, so 2 of these bets are Chiefs-Jaguars bets. I like that at plus 105. And here's the biggest one.
Let's go.
I know Chad's leaning the other way here and thinks that the Packers might win this game. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to do some chasing in this game. He had 1 interception against Buffalo. He had 3 against Detroit. I find it hard to believe he's not going to throw at least 1 interception against the Cowboys, and that's plus 135, which is a pretty attractive number. Aaron Rodgers over a half an interception for plus 135 against the Cowboys.
Paul, recap them real fast for us.
Juju Smith-Schuster, anytime touchdown, plus 100. Justin Fields, under 14.5 completions, plus 100. Trevor Lawrence, under a half an interception, plus 105. And Aaron Rodgers, over a half an interception, plus 135.
I'm going to need you to text those to me. Could not find any of those bets. Just immediately, I think my Wi-Fi on my phone went down because it just had the score bets. And now I'm searching. I'm trying to make it happen.
Yeah, Paul starts looking these up on Wednesday.
I want you to do the effort. I want you to put forth the effort.
I just made the effort. I took the picture.
Week
I can text you the
10,
picture.
odds courtesy of DraftKings. You can play along. OutKick.com/bet is where you can join OutKick 360. I love the Justin Fields because I do think they will run all over the lines this week.
I love the Aaron Rodgers one, even though I think they're winning. I think he's going to throw a pick and they're going to win.
We have the top games coming up in about 9 minutes. Last night, post game, Baker Mayfield. We would show the video. We don't have the rights to this video. The Baker Mayfield is headbutting, not 1, not 2, not 3. We can go LeBron here. Everybody in line with a helmet on. Baker Mayfield's not wearing a helmet. And as they leave the broadcast last night, Al Michaels, quote, "Good way to wind up in concussion protocol, even though you didn't get in the game." Like that's like the goodbye, everybody, as they show Baker Mayfield headbutting everyone, celebrating after the Panthers' victory over the Falcons. There are people in many sports, combat sports, certainly in the NFL, that have no regard for their safety or well-being post-career. This guy has always been like that.
Yeah. This
is nuts.
Some people
This is
seem
not like
to
the
like
tap. This is like he's like knocking his forehead into a helmet. It's odd. It's odd considering the injury last year in the preseason. It was preseason this year. He's lowering his shoulder into a defender on the sideline as like a love tap. Or was it week 1? It may have been week 1. Point being, like, he's as physical as they come, and this is why the career has ended up the way it has for Baker Mayfield.
This is just moronic behavior. Right? I mean, you got to have some semblance of an idea of an unhelmeted head against a helmeted head and what it's going to do to your head. And he just is not very bright at times.
Aside from the headbutts, let me just say Al Michaels is hilarious.
The last 2 weeks he is.
That's a great line. He's always been low-key funny.
Dry.
In the way he drops little things here and there.
But you'll agree.
But now that he's on Amazon Prime, he just doesn't care anymore. So it's like a stand-up routine.
I agree. He doesn't care. Like, there was a boring factor where it didn't feel like Al Michaels was calling the game for the first month and a half of this season on Amazon. And now he's kind of picked it up and he's kind of jabbing
Heck,
Herb
I'm
Street
going to have
on.
fun with it.
Yeah. Like at the end of the game in the fourth quarter, Herb Street's like, do we think Atlanta has a quick score right here and gets back in this and is down a possession? And Michael's real quick, no. And then they did. But still, like they're used to these terrible games. At one point he said there was a player who did something stupid, a holding call or something. It was third or fourth time in a row or in the game. And he said, I would say it's really good to do it now because no one's watching, but I have to realize I'm currently calling the game that I'm told people are watching.
I mean, he's slowly
Like,
morphing into Harry Doyle from Major League.
Yeah.
You know,
What was
no one's
Mariota
watching.
doing?
No one cares.
Did you see that one play where Mariota, he was clearly down, but I don't think he was thinking I'm clearly down, where he basically threw blind from his back.
He looked like Jameis Winston.
Going back to Michaels, by the way,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys caught this the week before, but he just dropped in the middle of the fourth quarter. He's like, "So Kirk, where are you guys going this weekend?" For college football.
Well,
he had no clue.
He's
and he's like, "We're going to be in
mesmerized.
Athens, big game with Tennessee and Georgia, and then I'm calling this game." He's like, "Oh, okay,
He is
cool."
mesmerized by Herb Street's
Cool.
schedule.
Yeah.
He talks about that weekly.
And I don't know if he really knew. He asked as if he had no clue and never asked him where he's
He
going.
may just be showing up now. I don't think he is. I don't think that's Al Michaels, but you can tell. Like I brought him up earlier this week when we had biggest regret. He's not calling the games they're getting flexed, and some of these games are just dreadful. And you've got Mariota throwing while he's laying down off his back. What would have been a great interception, but luckily for him, he was down.
If anyone's earned the right to be an elitist, it's Al Michaels.
That's right. Get that man a steak.
Be funnier. Keep it
Headlines, NFL, next. If you're looking for a place to bet on a game today or a futures wager, head to OutKick's Odds Finder. OutKick.com/odds. It's where you'll find spreads, totals, and moneyline odds for every upcoming game. I love it because it's super easy to navigate. Bookmark OutKick.com/odds and make OutKick bets a part of your daily sports betting routine. For bets decided by season-long results, head to OutKick's Futures Finder. OutKick.com/futures. Just select your state, place your bet. It's honestly that simple. And similar to the Futures Finder, the Prop Bet Finder allows you to search by player, team, or game for any sport. Check out the OutKick.com/props, and from there, click the Odds tab. You'll go directly to the Sportsbook to place your bet. Boost your game day experience with OutKick Bets. OutKick.com/bet. Get the edge with OutKick Bets. Just like that, the final hour is here. Glad you're with us for OutKick 360. We've got the top NFL games coming up, some underdog picks as well, and we'll get you ready for the college football weekend in just a moment. Chad's going to go through and play matchmaker. What was the name of the show? Her name was Patty.
Yes.
Millionaire matchmaker.
Yes.
That was good TV for a while.
She would set millionaires up on terrible dates on purpose because it was great TV, and this lasted a while. I think Chad will have a better hit rate than she did on matchmaker for college football.
Well, I don't know that these schools will do the right thing and do what I'm saying, but I'm telling you this would work for these jobs. This is what should happen.
Just a quick NFL injury update for you. Josh Allen officially questionable for Sunday's game as the Bills host the Vikings. Jeffrey Simmons, if it's not Aaron Donald, and it is, right beneath Aaron Donald is Jeffrey Simmons. He's been ruled out with an ankle issue that he has been playing through for the last 2 weeks, and he re-aggravated this, Paul, last week in Kansas City on Sunday night. And now he's been in a boot, which you told us about yesterday, and today Vrabel said he's not playing against Denver.
Which is trouble. And the Titans have several other guys out, too.
I think he's their best player, period.
I think so, too. Bud Dupree, also the difference maker.
He's out.
Amani Hooker. And the Titans play Thursday night in Green Bay. So you're talking about guys out Sunday. He might be out Thursday as well and get themselves two full weeks of rest. So we'll see if the Titans can make it through a bad Denver offense and through a Packers offense that's played poorly. We'll see what they do against Dallas that we've been talking about.
One thing I should know, and I don't know the protocol, concussion protocol on Friday, if you don't practice and you remain in concussion protocol, can you test out of that for the game? Matthew Stafford remains in concussion protocol, but he has not been ruled officially out as of 5:02 Eastern.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not confusing him with somebody else, that McVay said they'll take it down to 90 minutes before the game. So I think he's suggesting there's potential for him to come out of protocol. But I'm not certain about that the same way
because part of the protocol is you practice and then you're reevaluated. At least I thought that was protocol.
Well, maybe there's something he could do tomorrow that qualifies as some level of practice.
Okay. Kyler Murray, game time decision for Arizona.
Hamstring.
Speaking of the Rams, they play each other this week. Hamstring, game time decision. He has been somewhat active in practice, probably not running all that much. Shaq Leonard out for Indianapolis, as is tight end Jelani Woods and running back Deion Jackson. But Jonathan Taylor is expected to play this week for Indy as they visit the Raiders. Cleveland tight end David Njoku, he is out with an ankle issue. And Green Bay will be without Eric Stokes, officially done for the season with a knee and ankle injury. Matt Ryan, full participant. He will back up Ellinger for the Colts. And T.J. Watt, the fantastic pass rusher and got the big contract, Defensive Player of the Year. He is back for the Steelers this week as they host the Saints. That's your updated NFL injury report. Chad, let's head to college football. We've got some openings, and it is time for Withrow's matchmaking ability for the openings across the college landscape.
It's not millionaire matchmaker, but it's a millionaire, or soon to be a millionaire, maybe already a millionaire and going to make more millions to coach at a different job. So what I did, I went through the 6 available Power 5 jobs, and I said, this is what should happen. I'm not predicting what's going to happen. I'm giving you what I think is a somewhat realistic viewpoint of who a program could hire and who should be the match for that job, based on situation, based on the coach. Let's start with Auburn. Do we agree that Auburn is the best job available?
Yes.
Nebraska, Wisconsin, either one or the other, number 2.
It's Auburn.
Yeah. After that, Auburn, number 1 in the SEC. I agree. Don't overthink it. It's Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, I believe, is not completely settled at Ole Miss and has not been since he's been there.
I agree.
Lane Kiffin is someone who has some wanderlust. Auburn makes a ton of sense for him. Head-to-head in-state with Nick Saban, I think he would relish that opportunity. The resources are better. The championship lineage is far better.
NIL programs.
NIL's better. Last 4 coaches that have coached at Auburn either won a national title, played for a national title, or went undefeated in a season. You can't say that at Ole Miss. You can do that at Auburn. Not to say he can't be uber successful at Ole Miss, but guys, I feel like we're
the last
witnessing
4 coaches.
We're witnessing, yes.
Well, not Harsin.
Sorry, before Harsin. So Gus Malzahn went to the national championship game. Gene Chizik won a national title. Tommy Tuberville went undefeated in 2004. Terry Bowden went undefeated in 1998. So 4 coaches
You
before
can win
Harsin.
there. But so the only issue I have.
But would you agree with this on Ole Miss? I think Kiffin is at his ceiling. 10-2 season a year ago. Probably
At Ole
another
Miss,
10-2
yes.
season now.
Yes.
It's a program that's never played in the SEC championship game.
So they could do it this year.
Not if LSU wins.
That's
Yeah.
They could. The only issue and I am all aboard the Lane train. You guys know this. He's going to have wanderlust no matter where he is. So if you're Auburn, are you willing to revive the program, which he will do, and bring the energy, and then 2.5 years later, just have to play ball? You probably have to play ball with anybody you hire, but I think this is like an annual thing where there's a tease going on, and you have to figure out whether or not he is Gundy this year or if he is Lincoln Riley this year. And I think Ole Miss knows he's Lincoln Riley every year. Where does he come down with that at Auburn? Right? Like that's my only issue if I'm the new AD there trying to determine whether or not Lane Kiffin is perfect. I think he's perfect now.
Percentage of jobs
5 years from now.
Percentage of jobs that are better shrinks, and percentage of those jobs that are better that would want Lane Kiffin shrinks.
If
So
you're
it's less likely to leave.
And Chet, here's the other thing I'm thinking of as I'm reading through this last night. If I'm hiring, I mean, most of these schools don't care if you're paying a guy to fail. So I don't disagree with Kiffin being that guy to pay because it's boom or bust, and he's already told us and shown us this year he can reload.
He can boom.
Coaches and players.
So we had Tom Luganbill on earlier this week, and he had the line that there's too many cooks in the kitchen at Auburn with the boosters, with influence and everything else. That's a problem. Lane Kiffin's one of the rare guys who can cut through that because I don't think he'll care. So he's not going to listen to it. It's not going to bother him.
Those same boosters signed off on the Harsin hire.
I don't think they did.
There's not too many cooks in the kitchen.
I think that there was a divided. The problem was there was a group of boosters who wanted to hire Kevin Steele as an interim coach to bridge the gap to see how he could do. They loved him until they could get it together and hire who they wanted. Those same boosters, a season later when Alabama had the comeback and they lost, that started to drudge up the stuff with the affair and everything else to try to get him out. That's the problem. There was a divided booster group. No matter what, they're going to want to have their hand in things.
And so they settled.
Yeah. Well, the AD said he's staying after the investigation. Then he ends up out either way, and the AD's out. But I think Lane Kiffin can cut through that. Anyway, Lane Kiffin for Auburn. Wisconsin. Just remove the interim tag from Jim Leonhard.
If you don't.
Do not overthink this.
If you don't.
Wisconsin last overthought a coaching hire when they brought in Gary Anderson from Utah State, an outsider. You know how that worked out?
Great.
The dude left for Oregon State on his own accord because he was so out of fit with Wisconsin in Madison. Keep it in the family. Barry Alvarez, I don't want to get biblical on everyone, but this is the truth. Barry Alvarez begot Brett Bielema. Brett Bielema begat who? Gary Anderson, who left for Oregon State. Then they got back to it. He begat Paul Christ, who played at Wisconsin, who's from Madison. Paul Christ shall begat Jim Leonhard, former Wisconsin safety, 12-year NFL vet. It makes too much sense. And guys, they're 3-1 since he took over. If they beat Iowa this weekend on the road, they've got the inside track for the Big Ten West.
Identical records for Iowa and Wisconsin right now, and Chad has closed the chapter of Deuteronomy.
Yes. Next, we will read Paul's letter to the Corinthians.
I like a nice letter.
That's next week's column.
Yeah. A lot of letters being written to Nebraska's AD right now, to Trev Alvarez, about what they should do. There's some sentiment that Mickey Joseph could get the job. I don't see it. They've not been good. They were bad under Scott Frost. They've been bad under Mickey Joseph. I'm telling you. There are people that think he's going to get the job.
What a campaign.
I don't see it. I think those are Nebraska fans who have resigned themselves to believing they can't hire an outside candidate because Scott Frost didn't work out. Let me give you a name that I think you can hire if you really go all in. Mark Stoops at Kentucky. This is the one that most people have chimed back in and said, keep dreaming. He is not leaving Kentucky for Nebraska. If you believe that, you believe he's not bothered by John Calipari rightfully telling him and the world it's a basketball school. His response would say otherwise. He hates that. You know what else he hates? What he's brought up 3 times now. The lack of NIL. He is saying we are falling behind in the SEC because we don't have an NIL. He said it again, and then Mitch Barnhart came, we've been working with NIL, and we got whatever. Too little, too late. Mark Stoops wants to be at a place where he is the priority, where the football program is the priority. You want to know a place that you don't have to ask any questions about whether or not it's a school for another program? It's Nebraska.
So
this could happen.
He's also at a program where, with one win, his contract automatically gets a 1-year extension this week by beating Vandy, even though this season, based on the standard that they have reached, is a failure. Correct?
Yeah.
Coming off the 10-win, picked second. Now for Vandy, they're trying to look at win number 7, and they're bowl eligible. But at some point, the expectations rise. He's talking to John Calipari, who has the highest expectations in college basketball, and with a win, his 7th win, while he doesn't get a $250,000 bonus anymore because now that's fully guaranteed every year in his contract extension in 2021, he will get the extra year added on at the back end.
It's not all about money. I know that sounds funny in the world we live in now.
And he's making what, like 6.5 now?
Yeah, he makes a ton. His contract's great. I get all that. Look, I said in the piece, this is a bit of a long shot, but this is how they could pull it off.
It's the style, too.
I think Mark Stoops, I am reading between the lines here. The way he talks about the job, how fired up he gets about John Calipari saying it's a basketball. It is a basketball school. It is. There's no doubt about it. But how fired up he gets about that in NIL, I think that Mark Stoops believes he is tapped out at Kentucky.
I think the ceiling has been established, too.
Absolutely. 2 10-win seasons. He's saying, I'm not going any higher here. Why not restart the clock and try to rebuild one of the top 10 winningest programs in the history of college football? Oh, by the way, in a division, I know USC, UCLA are joining. This could change the divisions. In a division that's imminently winnable if you were Nebraska. Do you think the SEC East is imminently winnable for Kentucky ever? No.
It sounds like a loser mentality, but it's only a difficult job if Stoops makes it a difficult job there.
Nebraska or Kentucky?
Yeah, Kentucky. He can make $7 million a year. He gets a year tacked onto his
Finishing
contract
third.
for winning 7 games,
Again,
which he's always done.
I'm telling you, this is a compliment to Mark Stoops. I don't think he's someone that's okay winning 7 a year and making a ton of money. He wants to win a title.
He's made it difficult by challenging Calipari, though.
To Brian Kelly's credit, he could have stayed at Notre Dame for his life and made a ton of money and never won a national title. And he told the world, I'm winning a national title at LSU. And he left for a new challenge. I think Mark Stoops is made of the same stuff.
You have some other big names here.
Georgia Tech. Don't laugh, either one of you. Or laugh if that's your reaction. Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. Georgia Tech has never had a black head coach. I'm not one to put racial identity into the parameters of a hire. But damn it, that makes no sense in Atlanta. It really doesn't at that program. Deion Sanders would bring a sizzle to Georgia Tech football that has not been there since they shared a national title in 1990. They need that badly. He can recruit. He got a 5-star prospect to decommit from Florida State, his alma mater, to go to Jackson State. That's not even FBS. He can recruit the Atlanta area. He could recruit the Atlanta surrounding suburbs. I think Deion Sanders could work at Georgia Tech. and it would give them a much-needed shot in the arm.
I'm kind of on the why not on this.
At
but
this point.
I wouldn't want to have to listen to him with the ACC level platform.
Crazy stuff he might say.
It's nonsense.
You're all. I mean, if even without college football, you listen. He's all over the place.
He was on 60 Minutes. They did a 60 Minutes profile.
He has a national insurance commercial.
No, I know, but
Especially in that
it'll
city.
grow from where he is. It's only going to get bigger.
Now,
And he's going to say ridiculous nonsense.
Do I overrate my youth in watching Deion Sanders play center field for the Braves and steal bases and watch him play defensive back for the Falcons and say, man, he means a lot to the city of Atlanta? Probably, but I don't think it really matters because even with the youth of America today, because of what he's done at Jackson State, because of his big personality, they know who Deion Sanders is.
Well,
they know Coach Prime.
that Affleck commercial helps
Yes.
the youth of America know who he is.
So Georgia Tech, hire Deion Sanders. It
I
makes
like
a
that.
ton of sense for them. Arizona State's a tough spot because they're not very good right now. They're 3-6, but they get rid of Herm Edwards, and you've got this weird situation of NCAA investigation on top of reports that the current staff was basically sabotaging Herm Edwards to get him fired. So whoever inherits that job, this is a 3 to 5 year rebuild. You got to look at it that way. It's not going to be turned around in 2 years. You got to have someone that's there for the long haul. Go get an alum. Go get someone young. Go get someone that understands the current college football landscape. That someone is Kenny Dillingham, 32-year-old offensive coordinator at Oregon. Dillingham has an interesting story. Played high school football at Chaparral High School in Scottsdale, Arizona. Tore his ACL his senior year of high school. Became a coach as a 17-year-old for his high school team. Helped out the offensive coordinator. The dude was calling plays and elevated to OC at this high school at 21 while attending classes at Arizona State. Did not play college football after the injury. Is an Arizona State grad. He was at Memphis. He was at Florida State. He's been different places. Now at Oregon. 1 year there under Dan Lanning. I think this is the big swing of maybe we get our Lincoln Riley type at a very young age if you're Arizona State.
Who will swaddle this man-child?
Maybe they can bring Herm Edwards back to swaddle him. He's a very young-looking dude, too. Like, he's a young 32.
Young 32.
When you see him. Not a big guy. Finally.
I mean, it's interesting conceptually. I
Does
like
Dan
when you
Mullen
go
want that
outside the
job?
box. He can do better than that,
I
can't he?
considered, so you guys want to know my real outside the box candidate that I really wanted to put down here, but I didn't because I looked at his record in college.
And
It's
got
Cliff
scared.
Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury's going to get fired by Arizona, I believe.
Yeah.
What if he could just live in his house and then go coach Arizona State?
Change his commute.
And you
That fits.
keep a celebrity coach at Arizona State. Now, two things. One, they just fired a former NFL head
Celebrity.
coach in Herm Edwards.
But
a
they'd be
celebrity.
rehiring a college guy.
A college guy who's under 500 at Texas Tech
But
in his tenure. He also is the guy who coached Pat Mahomes in college.
the dude can sell tickets, though. So
I agree. I agree.
Only for a while.
I was close. I was close to putting Kingsbury down, but I went the more practical route with the young assistant. Colorado Buffaloes, I'm going another young assistant. Jeff Levy, 38 years old, not as young as Dillingham, been around the block a bit. Another guy who's got a fascinating story in terms of the offenses he's touched. He was a player at Oklahoma, got hurt, became an assistant for Josh Heupel when he was offensive coordinator. So he knows a bit of the Heupel offense, at least the version of it at Oklahoma. He then goes and coaches for Art Briles at Baylor. He's worked under Lane Kiffin, who's blending more pro-style concepts in with that. He's been good everywhere. Paul, you asked me the question, can he not hold out for a better gig?
And who's replacing Kiffin when you put Kiffin at Auburn?
That's exactly what I said. If my dominoes fall into place, if I'm Ole Miss, I'm
He's
bringing
unavailable.
Jeff Levy back to be the head coach after he was offensive coordinator the last 2 years under Kiffin before that. But look, if you can't sit around. If you want to be a head coach, that's the ultimate goal. Levy's an Oklahoma guy. Brent Venables has not been great in year one. You can't rely on you being elevated as head coach if you are an assistant for a failed head coach. So you don't
Yeah,
sit
right.
around
Your
and wait to
resume's
be the guy
not building.
that's going to take over for him. So I would take the Colorado job.
I like the list. I like the ambition.
I would wait.
I wouldn't take the Colorado job.
I would
mean,
wait.
I think that's a tough place to bolster your case.
Colorado
for your
should
next
not
job.
be this bad.
He needs to
No.
play this like Josh McDaniels has played this, except
Well.
Levy will be better.
Yeah, but
He
Josh
needs to
McDaniels played
be
it too
very,
long.
Very picky.
Colorado should not be this bad of a job. I know Bill McCartney was probably cheating his ass off while he was there in the 80s and 90s, but they were able to go into Southern California, into Compton, and get players regularly and dip into Texas.
Well, Michael Westbrook was a national
And that was the
player.
90s. That was, at the end of that reign where they were great in the late 80s, early 90s.
Believe it or not, Lane Kiffin remains the head coach at Ole Miss. And tomorrow they will host Alabama. We'll preview that and the other top matchups across college football, plus NFL's money line upsets for the underdogs this week in Week 10. That's all straight ahead on OutKick 360.
Was there a moment that you always look back to from Black Hawk Down and you said to yourself in that moment, I am not making it out? Like, I will not survive today because of this one thing.
It was kind of the entire day, the entire night. There was a portion of time, I think, in the middle of the night where things kind of calmed down and it wasn't as chaotic, and we were just kind of sitting waiting for guys in helicopters to get extricated and things like that. And it wasn't until the sun started to kind of peak back up where you're like, oh, this is going to turn back on again. But for the initial assault and 2 or 3 times that I went out into the city, it was just, I don't think any of us are going to make it out alive. And so every time we would kind of get back and be secure and all right, get more ammo, and we're going back out to try and find this other crash site. And I didn't think that it was happening for any of us. I kind of came to peace. I was just telling my son about this actually the other day, but I kind of came to peace with, okay, if I get hit in the chest, like I've got a plate carrier, hopefully that stops it. If I get hit in the arms or the legs, chances are I'll live. And if I get hit anywhere else, it's probably going to be pretty quick and traumatic and over. So I hope that I remember thinking specifically in the middle of the afternoon, I hope that I can just like look at the blue sky and have something peaceful to look at, not this whole, what I'm looking at in front of me. I hope that's not my last moments. And that kind of gave me a little bit of peace.
This one, I picked it because the caption's just frankly funny. And it's also geotagged your mom's house. It says balls deep, as we used to say, long before it was a popular term. The meaning to us referred to how far into bad guy territory we were. These are a few picks from that day and also a pick of us getting ready to go. We lost a mate on this day, Andy Fernandez. Although he was brand new to the unit, he had just been assigned, he left his mark, and will forever be etched into historic endeavors. R.I.P. Andy. So I know you probably can't get into specifics. The caption's hilarious, the top half of it anyways. But
Yeah.
Are you able to say anything about what this Instagram post is in relation to?
That was post gunfight. I think it's been talked about in some book, someplace. So I don't read any military history stuff. So I don't know. People will send me things sometimes where like, oh, this must be from this book that so-and-so wrote about. Like, I don't know. It was kind of post gunfight. We were outnumbered and surrounded by, 130, 150 dudes, and had, at least beat everybody back enough that, that was kind of that moment when that picture was taken. So we didn't necessarily know at the time, like, it was any gunfight is a scary moment, and, you don't really necessarily know the outcome. But it was almost, for me and where I was, it was almost a fun gunfight. Like, they couldn't hit me where I was, and they couldn't hit my group where we were based on the terrain. And so we were almost kind of laughing, running back and forth, shooting at these guys over here, go grab some more ammo, go shoot at these guys over here. And so it wasn't, a terrifying moment. It turned into not to be a terrifying moment. But then we started hearing radio calls, hey, we got some people hit and injured, and okay, well, now this is a serious thing. It's not a funny thing anymore. And if anything, the post kind of reflects that, where, initially, hey, haha, fun. This was, a good day. And then, somebody paid the ultimate price that day. And but that's about as much as I can say.
Go rapid fire for you across college football with the top games for Saturday in Week 11. 6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Alabama and Ole Miss. I'm going to pause here, and Withrow's going to take over because I was all on board with the Roll Tide last week against LSU.
You were big.
Vegas has valued Ole Miss, regardless of schedule, consistently throughout the season, much more than LSU. So, Chad, I'm with you here. But tell everyone why you are so confident in Alabama on the road in Oxford.
I think Alabama, you need a better passing attack, I think, than what Ole Miss has. Ole Miss defensively has been scrappy. They're not going to hold down Bryce Young. And I don't think their passing attack this year is dynamic enough to beat Alabama at home. Now you say, okay, Jaden Daniels did it for LSU. He's not the most dynamic. He's better than Jackson Dart. So he is more dynamic with his legs and can do more things than Jackson Dart. Here's the other thing about this game. I think Alabama is going to respond and win on the road. I'm the opposite of you a week ago, Hutton, where I didn't think Bama would lose necessarily.
No,
I thought LSU would have
cover.
a good chance to win.
And cover.
But then LSU won. Quinshon Judkins is incredible. The freshman from the state of Alabama for Ole Miss. I want to know what you guys think about this. I don't like that Nick Saban's being honest. He's not doing anything wrong. But when he's asked a question about Judkins getting out of the state, he can say, we looked at him. He's obviously a very good player, and I really wish he was with us because he could really help our team. That's like tampering to me. There's something odd about that. Even in a time of transfer portal and everything else, I don't like a head coach's ability to say, man, that guy from our state, we missed on him. He could. I wish he was on our side this week,
It's like
and
saying
not his.
go in the portal after the season.
Yeah, in the NFL, there's rules against that, right? You can do that if the guy enters the portal. I don't know. There's something about that was uneasy to me. But I think the Tide roll. I think they cover.
Here's how aggressive does Ole Miss need to be? Because keep in mind, there's a narrative, I feel like, that people haven't watched much of Bama, even though they're on TV every week, and I get it. But there's this sentiment nationally that, Bama's not Bama. They're 6th nationally in scoring. They average 42 points per game.
They're very good.
Ole Miss.
They lost in the last play of the game twice on the road.
Ole Miss is 9th nationally in third down offense. They convert 51% of the time on third down. So Kiffin, when he doesn't convert on third down, what does he do this year compared to last year on fourth, knowing that they have to score points? I mean, just looking at Alabama, they're going to score points. And Ole Miss runs the football very well, but they're also very aggressive. Here is Kiffin earlier discussing the Feinbaum comments and saying that it was goat fuel for Nick Saban and the Tide.
I texted Feinbaum on the way over here when I saw him. His quotes like he normally does and says, you know, the Nick Saban dynasty is over and all that. And every time he says this, which I tell him, all he does is, I call it like goat fuel, opposite of rat poison. He's just like giving the goat fuel, which for him, that works. And he goes and proves them wrong every time. So really appreciate Paul saying that right after the game. So I'm sure that was on his desk Sunday morning.
Ole Miss coming off a bye. Kiffin has now had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. I can't wait to see what he comes up with and what the team has for a rushing offense that's spectacular in Oxford and a coach who knows how to score and knows Nick Saban well.
I don't think they're as good.
In a year where they've lost 2 games.
I don't think they're as good as the 2 teams you're talking about, Bama losing to on the road on the last play, LSU and Tennessee.
Yeah, they're not.
I just don't. And so I don't see them winning. I don't care if they get inside the number or not. I think we get a little carried away rooting for games based on the spread. You know, it matters if they win or lose.
Oh, they're going in there to win the game. Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're looking at the spread. We're just talking from a betting standpoint. I think there's going to be at least one play in this game with the 2 weeks to prepare and knowing Nick Saban the way Lane Kiffin does, where he's going to have that before it's completed, hands in the air celebrating. I think there's going to be at least one of those trick plays or something he does where someone's going to be wide open.
He leads the SEC in completion, yards per completion.
Yeah, I still just don't think it's enough for them. Nick Saban did give Lane Kiffin credit on his coach's show where they asked about how important was he in transitioning to this offense, where they are now with more of a let-it-rip mentality. And he said, Lane is incredibly smart, and he was the right guy to help lead us into this era when he was here.
Chad, let's skip ahead to we've got 2 other games here, and these are all in your top 10. Washington, Oregon, TCU, Texas. As far as playoff scenarios are concerned, it benefits the SEC more for Oregon to fall once again, right? Or no? Because TCU hasn't lost, and the SEC with Georgia has won big over Oregon. I'm conflicted on this as far as the committee is concerned.
You're saying if you had to get one or the other?
Yeah, if
which
you could choose
you
one team to lose, who do you choose?
TCU.
Because with TCU unbeaten, though, I still think Tennessee has a path there.
But here's the thing. So TCU eliminates – here's the way I would view it.
The fear is Oregon jumps Tennessee in the last week,
but
right?
Here's the way I would view it. It's not just Oregon, though. So if I'm picking either or, if you're a Tennessee fan or LSU or whoever, and you're wanting to get in the back of the college football playoff, who are you rooting against? If you had to pick Oregon or TCU to lose, I'm picking TCU to lose for this reason. It eliminates the Big 12 from the conversation. I don't think a one-loss Big 12 champion, TCU, anyone else, has a chance to get in over a one-loss Tennessee, as an example. Oregon's not the only one-loss Pac-12 team. So Oregon really doesn't eliminate anything other than Oregon. We keep forgetting about USC and Caleb Williams, who has more touchdowns, accounted for more touchdowns than anyone in college football, and is going to be a Heisman finalist more than likely.
But they factor into this, though, because you need Oregon to lose but then beat another top 25
opponent. I need all of them
opponent.
to lose.
Right.
That's the issue,
you need
right?
You need the Pac-12 to eat themselves.
Yes. But
TCU can still go unbeaten, and that can happen. So I don't know if you're choosing one. I think this week I would choose Oregon to fall, even though they're at home to Washington. Washington, they can get after the quarterback. I don't know. There's something about the Pac-12 that would concern me as an
good
SEC
debate.
fan.
It's a fun debate. I mean, TCU's going to have another chance to lose at Baylor also, so you could factor that one in, a Big 12 champion. But Oregon's going to have opportunities to lose. Their toughest games are still to come. I would just want TCU to lose if I'm rooting for another team, simply because I think it eliminates an entire conference. An Oregon loss does not eliminate a Pac-12 champion from being in the playoff. Because there's still 2 other one-loss Pac-12 teams.
Got to get you closer.
Davey, pull this up while I give this stat.
Well, you want both
over-under
lose,
for the TCU
if you had
game.
to pick one.
Over-under for the TCU game, because TCU has scored at least 34 points in its first 9 games for the first time ever. Sarkisian and Texas, they are 2-9, allowing 30-plus points under that coaching regime. So to me, do you think TCU gets to 30 against Texas on the road, where Texas is a 7-point favorite? And if you're betting the 7 points and you're taking the points with TCU, you're betting that the offense is going to show up with, the fantastic offense, and they're going to do another fourth quarter comeback. I know, Chad, you think they fall this week. TCU, though, is just resilient. And
they are. Here, you know what this is similar to me to? It's similar to Tennessee, Georgia a week ago from this perspective. Texas has better players, and that's going to show at home in this game. Georgia had better players than Tennessee. Tennessee has a better offensive scheme. TCU has a better offensive scheme than Texas. Max Duggan has been terrific. I'm not sliding TCU in their offense.
Okay.
I think the sobering reality that Tennessee is still another recruiting class or two away from having Georgia depth or commensurate talent was on display Saturday. I think Texas being better is on display this Saturday. As crazy as that sounds, for a team that has lost close in their losses, they barely lost to Alabama. They lost a heartbreaker to Texas Tech.
I'm conflicted, though.
I think Texas gets over the hump because they have better players.
TCU leads the nation in touchdowns over 50 yards, and that's because of their coaching. They're scheming guys up, to your point.
Yeah.
I thought last Saturday for Georgia came down to coaching. And Kirby Smart right now is outpacing not just
I think
Josh
he outcoached Josh Heupel, but I also think they have better players.
They have better players, but again, the better coach had the scheme ready and had been preparing for Tennessee for weeks prior. My question is, in this matchup, which staff do you trust the most to scheme up the other one? And I know one head coach who's lost 3 games already this year. So
I think Quinn Ewers and Bijan Robinson are the 2 best players in the field. And I think Texas will win at home for that reason.
Well,
give me the talent at home.
They should, based on the spread.
I'm not disputing that. I think Sonny Dykes is a better schematic coach than Steve Sarkisian right now. And they've done a better job and done more with less than Texas has this year. My feeling is talent wins in this game. And I think Texas has more talent.
You make a very logical argument, and you could sit and look at that and look at that and look at that, and it just doesn't make sense that 4 is a dog to that degree.
Well, so we use the Tennessee-Georgia comparison, right. Paul. Here's another example. Missouri will do exactly what Georgia did a week ago to Tennessee. They've watched the film. They're going to attempt the same things.
Are they
good enough? Can't pull it off because they don't have the guys on the outside to go man-to-man on Hyatt, Tillman, McCoy, and have success. So it's just not going to work. They don't have the interior defensive line. They're good. They're solid there. They're not Georgia.
Can they ugly it up enough?
Tennessee with
for
equal
Tennessee
or
not
less
to look
talent.
great.
Missouri's less talented than Tennessee. Equal or less talent, they roll. But when you get up against someone who can we're going to keep it simple. We're going to make you earn it, and we're going to get up. We're going to jam you at the line of scrimmage on the outside. If you can do that, great. You're going to win. Georgia may be the only team that can do that. I think Texas is a team that can affect TCU with their talent.
By the way,
we'll find out.
UCF and Tulane also on our screen right now. And for our radio listeners, just keep in mind that the New Year's 6 bowl implications are on the line here. So, a good matchup there as well at 3:30 p.m.
Willie Fritz at Tulane is 62 years old. I feel like I've heard about this guy for a long time. I didn't know he was 62 because I was looking through possible matches. And I love him as a coach, and I looked at him like he's 62. So I didn't put him in another job for that reason.
And keep in mind, like a 12-game playoff, this game matters because Tulane, while they're 17th,
is in it.
They're in at 12. So you've got the
highest ranked
years from now. This
group
is
of
a
5 team is
game.
automatically in, which I like. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I do too.
Years from now, I hope it's sooner rather than later. The winner of this game technically would be headed to Knoxville, right?
12-5. Yep. Yeah.
As it stands.
Right, yeah.
I'd love to watch that game.
You'd like that draw.
Yeah,
we will.
I'm good with that.
We will watch that game.
Same reason I like Texas over TCU this week. I think I'd like that matchup for Tennessee.
Guys, you ready for my
all due respect to
Tulane?
Tulane?
Give us some games here and let us
NFL upsets.
Evaluate you.
Straight money line
Straight
here.
Cash,
this is not
homie.
a parlay.
Oh, here we go.
Straight money line.
Chad plays it as a parlay.
I'm going to play it as a
parlay.
I need a big winner this weekend to get back on board.
I'm taking the Steelers over the Saints. Chad's going to hate that because he's already mentioned he thinks the Saints are winning this game. At some point, though, Kenny Pickett is going to have a game where he comes to life. And the Steelers are coming off the bye week. This is Matt Canada's last real stand. He was not fired over the bye week as OC. So here we go. And the Saints are not like – they allowed 4 sacks to Baltimore on Monday night. T.J. Watt makes his return. To me, off the extra week, I'm taking Tomlin over Dennis Allen, who has lost 34 of his first 45 games of being a head coach in the National Football League. I'm taking Tomlin off the bye here, and I'm taking the rookie first-round pick, undeniable talent who is worthy of being a first-round pick, of winning this game and actually showing us over the backstretch of the season he's a quarterback worth investing in. And one more quick thing. Watch for a guy you've never heard of making a show for Pittsburgh. Jalen Warren, third down back. He's been better than Najee Harris. Tomlin has openly said that he's deserving of more touches and more carries. And here he is as an undrafted rookie against the Saints' 19th ranked run defense. Pick him up in fantasy if you don't have him. I'm taking the Steelers outright.
I think T.J. Watt can give a real bolt of energy to the Steelers here, and going against Andy Dalton,
Chad,
maybe
follow me here.
Let's
go.
Break knock some balls loose.
I took all three, all separate bets.
Okay.
I did not go with a parlay this time. I took all three on separate bets.
I think, these two teams are bad enough. It might be a compelling game.
Well, the Seahawks won for us last week. You picked the Seahawks as an outright winner, as an underdog.
I'm going to tell you why, because ESPN would tell you that the Bucs have a 77% chance of winning in Germany. But first, the Cardinals over the Rams. The Rams currently 32nd in yards per play this season. If you don't know how many teams are in the league, the Rams are dead last in yards per play this season, and Matthew Stafford is in concussion protocol, and they're still favored in this game. And I can't figure out why. I understand Arizona's offensive line.
Kyler Murray's hamstring is part of it.
Matthew Stafford's missing, and they're 32nd with him starting in yards per play this season. And their offensive line for Arizona, I get it. This is the 7th different starting lineup on their offensive line as we head into Week 10. John Wolford is capable. His only career start was against the Cardinals in 2020, and the Rams won that game and got into the playoffs. And here's Kyler Murray with a hamstring. But guys, the Cardinals, 10-3 record in their past 13 road games. Arizona's defense, they have returned 4 touchdowns in the past 4 games. They're putting points on the board defensively. DeAndre Hopkins and Zach Ertz will carry this game. And Hopkins has been targeted 32 times in 3 games since he made his debut back in Week 7. 26 of those have been catches. He makes the Cards, to me, the better team this week, even though they're on the road against Los Angeles. And the Seahawks. Second straight week, the wrong team is favored with Seattle playing. I took them last week against Arizona. I'm taking them this week against Tampa Bay. Brady becomes the first quarterback to start NFL regular season games in 3 countries outside of the United States. And I'm betting he actually loses his first in this game abroad. The Bucs, mediocre offensive line. The Seahawks are 4th in the NFL with 27 sacks. Geno Smith, multiple touchdown passes in 7 games this season. That leads the league. Tampa's defense has not forced a turnover in 5 consecutive games now. This should be a solid game. Mike Evans has owned the Seattle secondary while he's been with the Bucs. But Brady, and Brady also challenged his team's effort right before they boarded a flight to Munich. I'm just taking the better team.
I know
the better team is Seattle.
England has generally gotten crappy games, and Germany gets 1 game, and that's
Brady.
A pretty good debut game. I mean, you get Brady and one of the better stories in the league.
But I saw last night, and I added it today. Last night, ESPN's whatever index they use says that Tampa has a 77% chance of winning.
I don't get that.
Chad, explain that.
I can't explain it, but every time you say wrong team favored, I'm probably the only one, and maybe there's just if I can reach one listener or viewer with this line, this quote from a movie, then I've done my job. But in Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story,
yes,
when the dad that's playing the part of Johnny Cash's dad from Walk the Line,
yes,
and his brother dies, in the whole movie when he sees the son that's alive, he just says, "Wrong kid died," to the son's face
wrong
that
team
didn't die in
favored.
the accident. Every time I hear wrong team favored, I just think of that guy saying, "Wrong kid died."
The Bucs have lost 5 of their last 7 games.
They're bad.
The Seahawks are rolling. Put your money with Seattle here as the underdog for the 2nd consecutive week.
Wrong kid died.
Steelers, Cardinals, Seahawks. OutKick.com/bet is where you can go. OutKick.com/bet. Coming up, we will give some thoughts going into the weekend, tell you about a a good game you can watch tonight as well. This is OutKick 360.
Hey, listen, if you missed my show, don't at me. I've got you covered. Take a look. You and some ex-teammates. You went down, you spent a day with the U.S. Border Patrol down in the Del Rio sector at Eagle Pass, Texas. It was a humanitarian visit. You're showing support. Walk me through. How did it come about, and what did you see when you were there?
Well, Sonia Moshmeyer gave me a call, and she asked me if I'd like, she said she went down a couple of weeks before with Brian Urlacher to the border in Arizona. And she asked me if I'd like to go. I said, absolutely. And she said, can you get a couple extra guys? I said, sure. So I called Mike Barber and Andy Doris, two friends of mine that I played with. Mike was my tight end. Andy was a defensive end. And they said the same thing. Yeah, let's go. And we flew down on Mike's friend's plane and met Sonia here. And she took us through the ranks and meeting everybody. And I'll tell you what, it was a mind-opening experience. It's something that's needs to be exposed and needs to be talked about. I mean, there's like 2.7 million people that came over in 22 and 1.7 that came over in 21, illegal immigrant encounters. Over 1 million gotaways, which are criminals and terrorists that they can't find. They're here in the country. And since we've been there, I guess probably anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 illegals come across every day. We saw some of the footage the other day, which was the election day, I think it was, and they were just coming over left and right. But, you know, the problem is the administration has just turned their back on them.
9 to 11 Eastern time at OutKick.com.
Hey guys, it's Tommy. Check out OutKick.com for exclusive content and make sure you follow me on social media at Tommy Lahren. So from the moment it leaked the Supreme Court was rumored to overturn Roe v. Wade, I knew this could be the issue that screwed Republicans, and ding, 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 I wasn't wrong. Exit polling showed about 6 out of 10 voters said they were dissatisfied or angry about the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade, and about the same percentage said abortion should be legal. Nationally, over 30% of voters named inflation as the top issue, but here's the kicker. In Michigan and Pennsylvania, it was abortion that was issue numero uno. And guess what, Republicans? Whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, or somewhere in the middle, the fact of the matter is we as a party absolutely suck at messaging on this issue. And here's a reminder for those who forgot. I lean to the pro-choice side of things, but I do agree with the Supreme Court's decision to kick the question back down to the states where it belongs. See, I understand that is what the Dobbs decision did, but guess what? A lot of Americans don't get it. They've bought into the very effective and very false fear propaganda the left has been peddling that abortion was made illegal, or that women who have a miscarriage or choose their own life before their unborn child will somehow be prosecuted and thrown in jail. That's a crock of crap. It's not what the Dobbs decision did or said, but some people are kind of stupid. Voters are uneducated. They listen to pop and TikTok stars and don't bother to even do basic baseline research, not even a freaking Google search or ask Siri. That's unfortunate, but newsflash, it's not changing because voters, especially the young ones, are getting dumber. So it's up to Republicans to take back the narrative and get our messaging through loud and clear. It is not helpful for Republicans to spout off about banning abortion. It's not. And if we want to win a presidential election for the rest of eternity, we better stop making that our battle cry. And if you think any differently, you're lying to yourself, however self-righteous it may sound in your own head. Tune in every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern as I give you my hot takes and, of course, my final thoughts.
6th and Peabody, our location. Things are cranking up here for the weekend. You can watch all the games if you're in the Middle Tennessee area. They've got the best screens, all of the channels, and all the Power 5 games for sure here. And then every NFL game will be shown here on Sunday. 6thandpeabody.com for more info. OutKick 360 rolls on. So I did not take the Denver Broncos over the Titans as an outright upset winner for a reason. I don't trust their coaching staff against the Titans coaching staff. That's the only reason this week I would say the Broncos aren't winning the game. Paul, other than that, every sign to me points to Denver because of the bye week and because of the Titans injury status right now.
Well, Denver's also really bad at scoring, but Jeffrey Simmons out, Bud Dupree out. That's the best pass rusher they have and the number one disruptor in Simmons. Bud Dupree, stats bear out. They've been a lot better when he's been on the field than when he hasn't been on the field. This is the hip. We don't know if it's, recurring like a management thing or if he continues to injure it worse, but he didn't practice at all this week. Amani Hooker, a starting safety, is out with a shoulder injury. And then Ryan Tannehill is questionable. He did get a full day of practice in on Wednesday, limited Friday. Christian Fulton, their top cornerback, didn't practice Thursday, limited Friday, also questionable.
Again, coaching. That's the only reason I don't point to it. Because even if they're not scoring many points, it's a 50-50 game to me, based on how these teams play.
It's a 17-16
Where is Traylon Burks?
game.
Their
Traylon
ability
Burks,
on defense, by the way,
I know he's not on the injury report.
incredible.
Traylon Burks hasn't had to be on the injury report because he's in the activation 3-week window. I expect he'll be activated tomorrow and play the way that they've talked this week.
And do you think Tannehill plays? Just like gut feeling.
It's a tough call.
Because he lobbied to play in Kansas City.
Yeah, he wasn't ready to play in Kansas City. I mean, his warm-up was nothing.
He was.
I don't know. It's really difficult.
To make the trip.
He had a full practice. If he had practiced full today, it would have been a no-brainer. But that they scaled it back and that they're, playing again on Thursday. I wonder if part of it is, do they feel like they could win this game with Henry, and an expanded Malik Willis, who in the Houston game, the first game, they didn't do anything. In the second game, they ran him more.
They can.
And some people dropped some passes on him. Do they feel like they can beat Denver with that? If so, you buy Tannehill some more rest, and then you have the same conversation about what you could do at Lambeau.
Yeah, it's a tough call for me on that.
Yeah,
I don't know the significant injury history of Tannehill's ankle and high ankle sprain. Again, we don't know.
I don't think it's a high ankle sprain because I think if it was a high ankle sprain, he would have not been out there at practice some days entirely early in the process. And he was at least out there standing around. I think Simmons might have converted from a lesser ankle sprain to a more severe ankle sprain.
Two quick things. First, Michigan State Gonzaga is tonight. College basketball on ESPN if you're interested. Top matchup. And from all of us, happy Veterans Day.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you to everyone who served.
No doubt. We've got several here in the 6th and Peabody campus that have, and we've been making the rounds all day saying that. So thank you for all of those who served for our country. Hit us up on Twitter over the weekend at OutKick360. You can tell us we're idiots when we lose on some of these picks, but follow along because when we win,
we're winning.
You'll know about it.
We're winning.
You'll know about it.
Hear.
We're back on Monday to recap it all. Hope you'll join us across the OutKick Network. 3 o'clock Eastern is when we start. And again, hit us up at OutKick.com and on Twitter at OutKick360.
On the weekends, I beg, do not block the box, but please, please lock your locks. See ya.